account alongside USEC Annalyn Sevilla, I signed check related to the department's confidential fund and recall that each one amounted to 37,500,000. So ito pong 37,500,000, ilang beses po kayong nagpirma ng cheque in connection dito sa 37,000, ilang 37,500,000 pong cheque ang napirmahan po ninyo? Habang hope po kayo.
Mr. Chair, I'm not very sure if it's 2 or 3.
Okay.
It should be around that.
2 or 3. So more or less, mga nasa 54 million ang napirmahan po ninyo. Tama po?
Yeah, but separate checks.
Apo, dalawang check na worth 37 times 74. Apo. Now, sabi po ninyo sa paragraph 4, between February 2023 to September 2023, I received a total of 9 envelopes labeled Hope. My current position in DepEd during that time.
Concurrent.
Ano po? Tama po ba?
Concurrent position.
Yes.
Your Honor.
So tama po ba itong sinabi ninyo?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr.
Ano po
Chair.
yung laman nitong siyam na envelope na to?
It's 50,000 pesos.
50,000. So, 50,000 times 9. So, for 9 months, ilang buwan po kayong naging Hope? 9 months?
May I explain that?
Yes, please.
I've been receiving that envelope, but I never opened it while I was at DepEd. Some of my friends, when I left, they saw that those envelopes still intact, not opened. So I actually didn't know how much money there was in each of the envelope.
But how did you know na pera po ang
When I
laman nun?
retired already, I was asking for an exit call so I could
You were
return
asking for?
an exit call when I was leaving already DepEd because I wanted to return those envelopes, but I wasn't able to have that exit call. I wasn't able to return, but so I sought some advice, and they just advised me to donate it to a non-government organization, which I did. And that's the only time that I opened those envelopes in front of the people that I was donating it. And it was 50,000 per envelope.
So, 50,000 times 9.
It's 450 po. And
450.
They issued me a receipt for that 450.
Okay. Sino po nag-issue ng receipt?
Yung the one who, it's an NGO that I
Okay.
donated
So, yung
the money.
pinag-donate po ninyo.
Yes.
Do you have that receipt?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Your-
Can we
yes,
have a
Mr.
copy
Chair.
of the receipt,
Yes,
ma'am?
Mr. Chair.
Thank you po. So, buwan-buwan po, nakakatanggap po kayo ng 50,000 at sinasabi po netong si Assistant Secretary Sunshine Fajarda. Sabi po ninyo sa kanya, itong envelope na to ay galing po from the Office of Vice President Sara Duterte o galing kay BP. So, ano po ba ang trabaho nito ni Assistant Secretary Sunshine Fajarda?
She used to be the head executive assistant.
Heya.
And then she became an assistant secretary.
Okay. At ang asawa po niya, sabi po ninyo dito, si Edward Fajarda, siya naman po ang Special Disbursement Officer. Tama po ba?
Yes.
Okay. So, ibig sabihin po, itong mag-asawa po, si Sunshine Fajarda at si Edward Fajarda ay very close po talaga sa Vice President. Tama po ba? Masasabi po ba ninyo na very close sila?
I couldn't say that po.
Pero the fact na si Sunshine Fajarda ay heya, so siya po yung laging kasama. Tama po ba?
If you're the heya, you're usually the one who has trust and confidence from the
Yes,
president.
trust and confidence. So, ano po ba yung mga trabaho kadalasan ng heya?
It's really doing the
Parang chief of staff din po yan
Yes.
Tama po ba? So, pag dumating na si Heya at may sinabi pong instruction sa inyo, parang ang kausap na rin po ninyo yung boss. Tama po ba?
yes,
So,
Mr.
okay.
Chair.
So, ito po bang... so, tuwing nagpupunta po siya sa inyo, sabi ninyo, 9 months. Sunod-sunod, nagbibigay po siya ng envelope na may laman pong 50,000. Tuwing nagpupunta po siya sa inyo, sinasabi po niya, galing kay VP. Tama po ba?
Kami po yung umaakyat sa
Umakyat kayo.
Office of the Secretary.
Saan po kayo umakyat? Saang office po?
Sa Office of the Secretary. Kasi that's where she holds office.
Sa office ni Assistant Secretary Farda.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Chair.
By the way, ito po bang opisina po niya? Gaano po ito kalayo sa opisina ni BP Sara?
The same
Same office. So, ibig sabihin, isang opisina lang po silang dalawa. Okay. Pero kasi normally po, yung USEC ang nagpapatawag ng ASEC Tama po ba? Tama po ba? Kasi mas mataas po yung USEC kaysa sa ASEC But this time, yung ASEC po ang nagpapatawag sa USEC. Tama po ba?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. So, yun po hindi naman normal. Kasi normally talaga, ang boss ng ASEC, yung USEC. Tama po ba? Okay. So, the fact na kayo po ay pinatatawag ng ASEC, ibig sabihin po talaga, talagang very close. At talagang parang very close siya sa secretary. Tama po ba? Parang alter ego po siya. Okay. Yung, pakidescribe nyo nga yung opisina ng Office of the Vice President at saka ito pong opisina ni Assistant Secretary Sunshine Fajarda. Ano po ba yan? Kunyari, halimbawa, ito po, isang opisina to. Meron lang po ba siya doong table o meron din siyang sariling opisina doon?
May sarili siyang...
May sariling opisina. So, para siyang chief of staff doon. Okay. Pero lahat yan under ng Office of the Secretary. Kasi normally po, ang mga may opisina lang po doon, USEC. Tama po ba? Ang mga USEC po, may kanya-kanyang opisina. Tama po ba?
Sa baba po.
Sa baba. Yung mga ASEC po, may mga opisina rin po ba?
Yes,
Saan po? Sa baba rin.
Naka-scattered kasi madami.
Naka-scattered. So, ibig sabihin, on top dun sa opisina niya as ASEC, meron din siyang opisina sa loob ng opisina ng Secretary as HEA. No
po, Chair.
Wala.
Yun lang yung office niya.
Yun lang ang office niya. So, ibig sabihin
kasama
talaga...
din niya yung USEC, yung Chief of Staff.
Okay.
Ang nag-office doon, Chief of Staff at saka yung ASEC.
Doon sa loob ng opisina ng Secretary.
Okay. Yes.
So, yun lang po. Salamat po. Yes, with the indulgence of Congresswoman Luistro, the Chair would like to recognize Congressman J. Konghun.
In connection lang po, ma'am, doon sa tanong ni Chair. Tanong ko lang po, ma'am, nung naramdaman niyo po na may nag-aabot po sa inyo ng sobre, buwan-buwan, ano po ang pakiramdam niyo? Bakit hindi niyo po binuksan?
I must admit that I was uncomfortable with those envelopes, but parang ang hirap din kasi I'm not sure if others are receiving. Parang ang hirap din I didn't know if others are receiving. I cannot say. So ang ginawa ko na lang is I had this pouch that iniiwan ko lang sa office. Nilalagay ko lang doon yung mga binibigay sa akin na pera.
Sa pakiramdam po ninyo, para po saan yun?
Ang feeling ko is she has naman resources to give to she has probably personal resources that she can share to her people, and I'm not really, ayoko mag-speculate, but the only thing I could say is I wasn't comfortable with it.
Hindi po ba kayo nagtataka? Kayo po yung head ng HOPE, ng procuring entity, tapos may natatanggap po kayo na buwan ng 50,000?
As I mentioned, it is uncomfortable, and that's precisely the reason why I wasn't opening it at all. I was just putting it in one pouch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The Chair
Mr.
would
Chair,
like to recognize Congresswoman Luistro.
thank you. My question is addressed to Ma'am Mercado. Ma'am, do you confirm when you were still in DepEd, you were occupying concurrently USEC for HR and HOPE?
Yes.
Sabay
Mr.
po yun. When were you appointed as Undersecretary for Human Resources and Organizational Development?
We were all appointed together by the President July, but I only assumed
Can you please state the year?
July 2022 po.
Okay.
But I only assumed office in August 15, 2022 because I was still winding up my work with another office.
So you would agree with me if I say that you were appointed as USEC for HR July 22, but you assumed the position August 15, 2022?
Yes, Mr.
With respect to your appointment as head of procuring entity, kailan po kayo na-appoint?
That's February 2023.
February 2023. Let's go back to your appointment as USEC for HR. From August 15, 2022, kayo po ba ay pinaakyat din ni ASEC Sunshine to receive this envelope which you refused to open?
Not on 2020. I don't recall 2022. We have we have gifts on December, but I don't recall a monthly thing before that.
In other words, from August 15, 2022, that is the date of your appointment as USEC for HR, until before February 2023, which is your appointment as head of procuring entity, you are not receiving any envelope from ASEC Sunshine.
No.
And you will confirm that this envelope started only when you were appointed as head of procuring entity.
It's actually not very clear to me anymore, but I recall we also received some amounts in 2022, but it's very vague to me anymore. So, and then I don't have the envelope. So, parang it wasn't.
So how do you receive those amounts which are vague, not regular, if there are no envelopes?
No, I think it's only once. It's like a Christmas bonus. Pero siguro hindi siya naka-envelope kasi I didn't keep it.
Tama po bang sabihin, ma'am, na yun pong regular monthly envelope which you later on found out contains 50,000 per envelope, ay nag-umpisa lamang nung kayo na-appoint as head of procuring entity?
I'm still keeping those envelopes, so I would like to say yes.
Yes, because it is very clear from your affidavit, no? This envelope started in February and ended in September of 2023. And earlier you said kayo po'y na-appoint bilang HOPE noong February 2023. And prior to that, since your appointment in August 15, 2022, wala kayong nare-recall regular envelope which you were receiving from ASEC Sunshine. Can you please enlighten us? What is with HOPE? Bakit doon lang po nag-umpisa itong envelope na ito upon your appointment as head of procuring entity?
It's a very difficult task, especially for someone who has not tried to be one before. Parang it's an area that I really evaded all my entire government life. But I needed, there's just too many already pending procurement at that time. So when I was asked if I could be designated as the HOPE, I first refer them to other people who are seasoned in procurement, like Sina Yusik Rebsi, but Yusik Rebsi was already too preoccupied with operations. So I finally accepted the position, and it was difficult because I have to study the procurement law, and I was given I had a lawyer and someone who's already a retiree to review the documents with me when we signed the contracts. And I had commitment from when I accepted the post, I made it a family decision, you know. Like among the execom, I asked our legal before, Yusek Brady and ASIC Amanda Nograles, that everything that I signed has to be thoroughly reviewed by legal. And so I had that commitment of support from everyone in the execom, and so I accepted the post.
In brief, ma'am, can you please enlighten us? Why do you say na mahirap, difficult ang position ng Hope?
Because you have to you have to look through all the documents, and it's like
Which documents, ma'am?
everything that goes through the bidding process. I am not part of the bidding process itself, but on the time that I was appointed, I was the one tasked to form the structure of who's chair for BAC 1, BAC 2. So I spoke to all the people which I know I will have comfort to chair specific committees at specific BAC. But the process of bidding, I'm not part of it because you have to maintain you have to make sure that you're not enmeshed with the process itself, but you're just reviewing to make sure that the vice president secretary is protected with everything that I signed because it's a delegated function.
In other words,
she's supposed to be the hope.
In other words, ma'am, you're the person who check all the documents coming from BAC before the vice president signs or approves.
No, I signed because
You sign for the...
I have to sign because I'm the one the hope signs. It's delegated to me already.
And you will agree with me if I would say na you consider it difficult because it concerns matter about procurement and bidding,
Yes.
where there are a lot of issues surrounding, sometimes
And it's just
issues
too
about
many.
bribery and corruption. You agree with me?
yes,
And what do you think is the reason kung bakit yung envelope nag-start lang during your appointment as Hope?
I think
Bakit
it's-
po walang envelope nung HR pa lang kayo? Tapos biglang nagka-envelope nung naging Hope kayo?
I think it's like an allowance maybe for an extra work because sometimes I have to stay until midnight to look at the documents when sometimes I have
If
one.
that is just an allowance, ma'am, then the rest of the officials of the DepEd should be receiving also their respective envelopes. Do you think so? Don't you think so, ma'am? If that is just an allowance, then the rest of the officers of DepEd should have their own envelopes as well.
Mr. Chair, that's precisely the reason why I did not open any of it. Because
I
that was
understand.
very uncomfortable on my
I understand. And that leads me to the next question, ma'am. Why were you so uncomfortable with the envelope when you believe that that is just an allowance?
part. Because, Ma'am, I'm 40 years, Mr. Chair, I'm 40 years in government. The only time I have an ombudsman case is when I advised my principal not to sign an importation, when I was the Deputy Cabinet Secretary, and I advised my principal not to sign an importation because there was no rice crisis. That's my only ombudsman. I have to protect that name. Self-made po kami. I come from Samar. I was a scholar since I was grade 1 until I took my PhD. So I have all reasons to protect my name, Your Honor. And I'm in the home stretch of my career. And then I'm being thrown into that position, which I have no control because I'm only studying it. So that's my...
Ma'am, I wish to remind you of the terminologies which you mentioned already, with all due respect po sa inyo, no? because I want to elicit this information from you. Kanina po sabi nyo, the position, the job of hope is very difficult. Do you confirm?
Yes.
Yes. And you did not open the envelope because you feel so uncomfortable. Do you confirm?
Yes.
And then recently you made mention na it was only once that I had this case with the ombudsman. Do you confirm?
Yes, ma'am.
And you also made mention that you wish to protect yourself. Do you confirm?
Yes.
And the
Mr.
reason,
Chair.
ma'am, is because you believe that that envelope is a bribe. Do you agree with me? Because
I'm
otherwise, you will not appreciate the job as difficult. You will not uncomfortable opening what you believe is allowance. You will not be thinking about the ombudsman case. You will not be thinking about protecting yourself. The reason why you are considering all these concerns is because you believe that the envelope is a bribe. Do you agree? Yes or no, ma'am?
It's kind of harsh word to use, bribe, because if
Or should I say, it is a means to influence your decision being the hope?
it could be.
You said yes to that? You said it could be.
Could be.
I wish to manifest, Mr. Chair, that on the story, on the narration of the resource speaker about this envelope, she received and she refused to open until the same is donated from February 2023 to September 2023 is a means actually to influence the decision of our resource speaker being the one who approved all the decision of the BAC in behalf of the DepEd Secretary. Tama po ba, ma'am?
There was only one instance that I could recall na but there was no one spoke to me about there was an instance where I tried to let a bidding lapse, but I ended up signing it because there was a protest. I'm not comfortable discussing it.
But I wish to state for the record, Mr. Chair, that with the narration of our resource speaker, she earlier manifested that she believes that those envelopes are means to influence her decision as hope. Ma'am, I wish to invite your attention to paragraph 6. You mentioned in this paragraph that a certain attorney Reynold Monsayak suggested in the presence of 3 DepEd officials na pag-usapan na lang ang 2022 budget para hindi masayang. However, you firmly asserted that the procurement must be implemented and conducted in strict adherence with the rules. Do you confirm this?
Yes.
Can you please enlighten us? Sino po yung ibang DepEd officials present during this incident?
Actually, it was 1 director and 2 consultants.
Can you please state the names?
The director was Director Resty Osias, and the consultants was Juna Soriano and Ferdinand. Ferdinand. Forgot the family name.
Where did this meeting happen, ma'am? Kanino
was-
pong opisina nangyari to?
It was not in DepEd. I was having lunch. There was a training ongoing in one hotel. I don't recall anymore whether it's Linden or Discovery Suites, but it's just in Ortigas area. And I was having lunch with these people, and we were discussing a project. And then that's when I was approached.
Does that project have something to do with the 2022 continuing
no,
fund?
it was different.
It was different.
Yeah.
But that lunch was shared with these three other DepEd officials along with Attorney Monsayak.
No, Attorney Monsayak was not part of the lunch. I think he probably came out from the training, and then that's when he joined us.
He joined you, and then to whom did he direct what he said na pag-usapan na lang natin yung 2022 para hindi masayang? Kanino po ba niya sinasabi ito? Sa inyo o doon sa tatlong DepEd officials pa?
It could be to me and the director, because Director Resty was also a member of the BAC.
How about the two others? Are they members of the BAC also?
No, they're not, because the consultants we were discussing a DepEd Guru program. It's an app that we were discussing.
And can you enlighten us? Ano po bang naging reaksyon nung kasama nating director? Her name is Director
Ucias.
Osias.
Well, I think his reaction was that parang, ba't niya sinabi yun, we're not, may other people there.
I see.
Parang ganon.
Because those two other consultants are not part of
Yes.
the BAC.
Yes.
And did she accede to what Attorney Monsayak said?
No. He's a very strict director as far as procurement.
She did
is-
not accede.
He.
Did not accede.
Yes.
And kayo po, you asserted that the procurement must be implemented and conducted in accordance with the law. You said that.
Yes po.
And Attorney Monsayak heard that.
Yes po.
And after this incident, ma'am, what happened?
I left na. I left already.
You left. But you recall that after some time, kayo po ay kinausap na ni Ms. Sulaika, ni Attorney Lopez, the Chief of Staff of Vice President Sara. Please enlighten us. What happened during that conversation?
Parang a day, mga afternoon, I got a text. When I got the text, it was a familiar text because these were the same texts that is sent to those who are asked to leave as well. So when I saw it, I prepared what I should tell them and tell her. And I prepared that I'm not resigning, but I'm retiring because I'm already at age level where I could retire properly. And so when I went there, I knew what the issue would be, because the kind of text that I received was the same text that was received by Chris Arnoco, ASEC Chris Arnoco, and the others.
Who is Chris Arnolfo, ma'am?
He's an ASEC also that was asked to resign.
He was asked to resign for what reason, if you're aware?
No, I'm not aware.
You are not aware.
I just get to know being an HR, and then I was their nanay-nanayan in DepEd. So I get to be their sounding board and their apprehensions, because they're young people, their career. So yun yung situation. And so when I arrived at the OVP's office in Mandaluyong, sinabi na there's this issue of a teacher that is in my office and some other issues. So kinat ko na lang si Yusek Sulaika, sabi ko, in my 40 years in government, I knew that I work on trust. So if the principal doesn't trust me anymore, then you don't have to find reason for me to go. So I'm ready to resign, to retire. Here are the things that I need to do for retirement. I need to say goodbye properly to the institution that I serve well.
For the record, ma'am, did you resign or did you retire?
I'm being asked to resign. I did not. I retired. I
You
applied
retired.
for retirement.
So when did you retire?
Effective November 1.
So that is 1 month
No.
from the supposed date when
they
you're
don't
supposed to
li-
retire?
They don't like 1 month. I was actually trying to ask for December 30, but they wanted, in fact, they wanted it on that day that they spoke to me.
This is fourth week of October when Attorney
I
Sulhueca
think third.
talked to you.
I'm not very sure anymore.
Third week of
whether-
October, they want you to resign on that date?
On that very day.
On that very date. But you said,
I'm not going to resign because I have to honor my 40 years in government, you know. What would I do after resigning?
and how did you feel when on the
Oh.
third week of October you're being asked to resign?
I was so devastated because I couldn't find a reason why I will have to go, you know.
What were you thinking during that time? Can you please share with us your thoughts? Ano pong iniisip nyo during the time when, after 40 years of being in DepEd, dedicating all your life and career in DepEd, suddenly there is Attorney Sulhueca asking you to resign right then and there?
I was very sad. I spoke to, but it wasn't a surprise, Mr. Chair, because there were 6 people before me that went through that process. So I wasn't surprised. So what I did the night before when I got the text, I already prepared myself. But I'm human and I worked very well for the past year. So I was really very devastated with what they did to me. And that's also the reason why I refused to initially to face this panel, because I said I'm so wounded as a bureaucrat. So baka So I just didn't. Siguro what was hurting is that when I left, they were trying to marami kasing press that was running after me and asking why I left. So my children and I flew to Guam for 3 days just to evade the press, which nandun na rin sila sa gate namin sa village. And I think what was hurting is that they were trying to justify my departure by saying that I was favoring certain suppliers, which I told
You don't believe that.
I told my kids.
You reject that.
I told my kids I left DepEd with my pride intact and with integrity because I have not favored any. I don't even speak to suppliers. If there are petitions or things that has to be settled at Hope level, I go at the middle of DepEd where it's seen by everyone, and that's where I speak to the suppliers.
Last question, ma'am. Sasang-ayon po ba kayo if I would say na yung pagtanggi nyo kay Attorney Reynald Monsayak na pag-usapan na lang yung 2022 continuing fund ang dahilan kung bakit kayo pinagre-resign ni Attorney Sulhueca?
That's very speculative, ma'am.
From your point of view, ma'am, it can be right, it can be wrong, but from your point of view,
It could be
the reason. Dahil tumanggi kayo na pag-usapan ang 2022 Continuing Fund, posible na ito ang dahilan kung bakit kayo pinag-resign ni Attorney Sulhueca. Thank you, ma'am. I submit, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The Chair would like to recognize the presence of our Senior Deputy Speaker from the 3rd District of Pampanga, Honorable Aurelio Dong Gonzales Jr., the Honorable Chino Miguel Almario from the Bao Oriental 2nd District, the Honorable Margarita Attorney Mix Nograles, Deputy Majority Leader of PBA Party List, and the Honorable Rodante Marcoleta from Sagip Party List. Yes, Congressman Rodriguez. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I proceed the interpellation of our witness, I'd just like to pick up on the point that Congresswoman Luistro just mentioned po, no, while she was on that matter of the reasoning perhaps of the request of, I'm sorry, is it Yusek or Asek Munsayak? Asek Munsayak. You mentioned po kay Attorney, upon questioning ni Congresswoman Luistro, that it is speculative to say that perhaps the reason that you were asked to step down was because of the request which you rebuffed, no? But in your affidavit, you mentioned here that the timing of my meeting with Ms. Zulaika struck me as more than coincidental. It gave me the impression that my candid response to Attorney Munsayak's suggestion was the real reason behind the push to relieve me of my office. Of course, Mr. Chair, we understand the predicament that the good USEC is in. It was very difficult to be forthright in times like this with the allegations as heavy as this. But you have to be honest with us, po, Madam USEC, Mr. Chair. At the time, you did feel that there was a relation between the request for you to resign and your refusal to work on the procurement as asked by Attorney Bonsayak?
No, not at the time. But because it was happening so fast, Mr. Chair. So parang it happened so fast. Events happen one at a time. There was so many things to close. I have so much things to move out from so I didn't have the time. But on a hindsight, when it's almost a year from now, many months already, you kind of find that reason na siguro yun yung events. Simply because I was getting information from my colleagues that they're saying that I was moved by the Vice President out because I was favoring some suppliers, and it hurt me so much because I have not spoken to any supplier. In fact, there was a supplier which I learned later was sister of our family lawyer and a family doctor, and I did not make a decision on that specific case. I raised it to the office of the Vice President to make the decision, just to make sure that there's no doubt on your decision for certain suppliers. So I made a confidential memorandum to the President, to the Vice President, saying that there are allegations of bribe in this specific case, so I'm raising it to you to validate the issues. So siya yung gumawa ng decision.
So at that point, you would say that you feel then the reason that you were asked to step down was because of the allegations of favoring.
No.
So
No, not at the time. I think they used it only when I left na. When I left na. Because they have to justify why I have to leave, Parang masyadong, the reason that was given was a little shallow.
Okay. So you believe that the reasoning that you're favoring suppliers is shallow and belated. It was something that they were grasping at a latter time. So right now, if we ask you, what did you feel is the reason for Attorney Monsayak to ask you, for Ms. Zolaika to ask you to step down?
I think it's, I would believe that it's really the work on the procurement side.
So, tama po yung sinabi ni Kong Jinky. She was hinting at that. You just had difficulty saying it.
Yeah,
But
on a hindsight, yes.
In hindsight. And you stand by your affidavit now when you say that it seemed as more than coincidental po, no? That the conversation of your resignation came right after your rebuffing of the, I wouldn't say advances, but the suggestion that you do not intervene with your duties in procurement.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to take up from that point now from Congressman Luistro. But so I'll start now over from your affidavit as a whole. Of course, these are very heavy accusations. This is a very heavy narration. And of course, Chairman Dan Fernandez has already given some insight as to your background. So it really gives us some credibility, an idea of who you are and why you would come out to say this. So with that, we'd just like to verify, of course. I know some of these questions were already asked prior, but we'd like to really test the narration. So, Madam Yusek, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned that at least 2 or 3 times po, you signed the checks. And this was for the amounts of 37,500,000. And you're sure that this is sourced from the confidential fund. How do we know po that this is...
No, I'm not. I signed checks.
The checks.
Because when you sign checks, there's a document, there's a paper naman that says where what fund it is.
And you mentioned that you are one of the co-signees.
But only for checks.
For the
We have
checks.
no idea how the confidential fund is
Of course.
used. Or,
Yes. I'm limiting my questions purely to the checks. It's
Yes,
that which you have
yes.
personal knowledge. So you mentioned here that you signed checks related to the confidential fund, and there were documents to prove that this is in relation to the confidential
Yes.
fund. Who else were your co-signers po in the check?
Yusek Ann.
Yusek Ann is here. She is present. May we ask si Ms. Chair, we are free to ask other resource persons po naman, no? Because as
Yes.
in an inquiry in aid of legislation.
Yes, please continue.
May we ask Yusek Sevilla, you were mentioned in this affidavit. Do you confirm that you signed these checks together with Yusek Mercado?
Mr. Chair,
Yusek
Sevilla.
Sevilla, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Your Honor. As part of my work as the Undersecretary for Finance, I do the ministerial task of processing and releasing payments. And for a check to be released, there should be 2 signatories. And in the designation of authorities to sign checks, all undersecretaries are authorized to do the signing of the checks. And there's a limit also, Your Honor. For example, until 10 million, that's the director level. Up 10 million and up, it's now the undersecretary. So in the case of the confidential fund, when it was processed and released, there are 2 signatories, and I confirm that one is mine and the other is Yusek Gloria Mercado.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have confirmation of that narration, that part of the affidavit na co-signee po, the co-signer, si Yusek Sevilla. Yusek Sevilla, can you confirm to us how many checks po kaya ito? Just to help refresh the memory of Yusek Marcolet.
There were 3.
Yusek Mercado.
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, there were 3 checks that were issued per quarter. I'm getting the details, Your Honor, from our accountant who is also present. They're the one preparing the checks, but I don't have the exact details. But I remember that the release is done per quarter. And 150 million that was appropriated for 2023 divided by 4 quarters is 37.5 million. So there were 37.5 million per quarter that were issued as checks.
Okay, so we now have confirmation that tama naman po yung narration ni Yusek Mercado, 2 to 3 checks. Now we have confirmation it's 3. So the total amount that she is attesting to have been signed off for is 112,500,000. Would that be a fair statement, Yusek Sevilla?
Mr. Chair, I confirm that the total of 37.5 million checks is 112.5 million.
Thank you. Yusek Mercado, you mentioned po in your affidavit in the paragraph number 4 that you received a total of 9 envelopes. Of course, now we understand that you had apprehensions and that you had some difficulty accepting it, and we'll come back to that na lang po, no? But you mentioned here that a certain ASEC, the HEA at the time, si Ms. Farda, is she here today? No, it's not here. So si ASEC Farda, is she still in the office of the OVP, DepEd? Would you know? She's with the OVP right now. Okay. And you mentioned that she would give you the envelopes. Would you recall if the envelope had the marking HOPE po, no? It was
Yes,
labeled as
yes,
HOPE.
Mr.
Was this
Chair.
typewritten? Was this printed?
No, it's written.
Written. Would the handwriting be familiar?
I'm still keeping those envelopes.
Oh, you still have the envelopes. Mr. Chair, may we request perhaps that these envelopes be produced as object evidence for this committee? So perhaps in a...
The envelope, I think, was already, the content of the envelope was already donated.
Yes.
But
y-
with respect to the envelope, you still have it in your possession. Tama po ba?
it's in my home.
Okay, so may we request Yusek Mercado to please, dala po ba niyo ngayon?
Hindi po.
Hindi. So siguro in the next scheduled hearing, may we request na pakidala po ninyo para ano po namin.
Meron pang next schedule.
Ma'am, pakilapit lang po ninyo yung microphone para medyo clear at maliwanag po. Thank you po.
So,
Please continue. Please proceed.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that would be very helpful, and we'd really appreciate if you could produce that. That would be object evidence po if talagang handwritten po yan, and if we're able to prove kung kaninong handwriting. This would just serve to verify po the veracity of your narration. So, meron pong envelopes that were labeled HOPE. They were not labeled Ms. Mercado. They were not labeled Ma'am Gloria po ba? Is that how you go? What is the name that you go by po for people familiar with you?
Glo.
Glo. So it didn't say Dearest Glo, it didn't say Music
It's just
Mercado,
Hope.
just Hope. Just Hope. Okay, I'll come back to that po at a later time. Going back po to the lunch of, you had the lunch, according to paragraph 6 po, no? You substantiated that your lunch was in Discovery Premier po ba? Or-
I don't recall anymore whether it's Linden or Discovery, but just within those hotels.
And you had that lunch with 2 other colleagues and then si
Three-
attorney,
three.
3 colleagues.
Yeah, one of my directors, Attorney Resty, Ucias, and 2 consultants
2 consultants. And then si Attorney Monsayak joined you
joined
at
us.
a later time.
Uh,
Mr. Chair, may we ask si Attorney Monsayak? Good afternoon po, sir. Sir, ano po yung position nyo at the time? You were USEC?
Good afternoon, sir, Your Honor.
Attorney Monsayak, you are recognized, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Your Honors. During that time, I was new at DepEd as Assistant Secretary for Procurement.
You were an ASEC for procurement. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
And at the time, would you confirm that you were at a training? Do you recall the narration of this lunch that that USEC Mercado has laid out today?
Yes, Your Honor. The very good thing about this is I kept all our conversations and it would debunk the timeline being narrated by USEC Glo Mercado here, especially about the reason she was supposedly removed by the appointing authority. And I remember that lunch. Your Honor, can I provide context for the narration?
Hopefully, Mr. Chair, may I just clarify? My question is about the lunch po. No? Yung whether or not the reason for the removal or whatever.
Yes.
We'd like to hear that, but sir,
Yes.
perhaps at a later
Yes, sir.
time after interpellation by other members.
Yes, sir.
But my interpellation is purely on the lunch. If you could qualify the context po. Na lang.
I remember the lunch. It was a training conducted at Linden Suites regarding procurement. It was the time that, because when the first bidding, 2022 bidding was conducted, the bid opening, I was not yet an employee of DepEd. So it was conducted, I think, August. I joined DepEd at October 1. But when I was there, I saw that all the bidders...
Excuse me, can I... pwede po ba puputulin ko po muna?
Yes, Your Honor.
Attorney, nag-take ka na po ba ng oath?
Opo, nag-take po oath kanina kasama ng mga iba pang resource
Okay.
persons.
Attorney Powa, nag-take na rin po ba kayo ng oath?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Kanina po.
Okay, so please continue.
So naalala ko po yan, nung pumasok po ako, nakita ko po yung sa original bidding ng 2022, halos lahat ng bidders nadidisqualify na. At yung 2022 funds, maglalaps na yan end of 2023. So nakita ko ho yan na nagpo-post qualification pa sila. Nandun ho si Yusek Glomer, kasama ho si Resty Ocias. Hindi ko ho kilala yung dalawa, no? So, una ho, wala akong dahilan o interes o inclinasyon na magbigay ng isang illegal na order sa isang publikong lugar na may mga tao na hindi ko man lang kilala. Ang naaalala ko po dyan, si Resty po ang kausap ko, sabi ko, ano ang plano nyo dyan? Kasi kung itutuloy nyo yung post-qualification at maglalaps yan, hindi na aabot yan sa December 2023. So, mag-decide na kayo kung ire-rebid nyo yan. Kasi kung ire-rebid nyo yan, hindi masasayang yung pondo, mayu-utilize pa yan bago mag-end yung 2023. Yan po yung mismong sinabi ko. Kumbaga, pinagde-decide ko na ho sila kung itutuloy pala nila yung post-qual nila na sobrang na-DQ na halos lahat ng mga bidder or magre-rebid na sila kasi tapos na naman yung period for post-qualification at marapit na rin mag-lapse yung 90-day maximum period for procurement. So parang sinabi ko, mag-decide na kayo kung i-rebid nyo yan kasi kung i-rebid nyo yan, aabot pa yan, hindi masasayang yung 2022 funds. So I remember that, Your Honor. Ang tanong ko lang ho, ba't naman ho ako mag-uutos ng illegal sa isang USEC na head of procuring entity na may mga kasamang tao na hindi ko man lang kilala?
Thank you for the qualification.
Can I
po.
just interject?
Yes,
Yes, thank you very much, Congressman Gutierrez.
Yes, Deputy
Yeah.
Speaker.
Mr. Chair, just so that I can fix my timelines no, on my notes. At that time po, Attorney Monsayak, ano pong posisyon ang hawak ninyo?
Assistant Secretary for Procurement po ako.
So ASEC na po kayo at that time?
ASEC lang po ako.
Kailan po kayo na appoint na ASEC?
Nag-assume po ako October 1, Mr. Chair, Your Honor. October 1, 2023.
October 1,
2023 po.
2023. So, head kayo ng procurement.
Ay, hindi po. May boss po ako na USEC for Procurement po.
Okay. So, but when you assume your position as ASEC, you're appointed as ASEC, no? Correct?
Opo, Mr.
You were
Chair.
ASEC for what?
Procurement po.
So for procurement. Okay. Thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify that. No, thank you. So my apologies to Congressman Gutierrez.
Please continue, Congressman Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, DS Suarez. So USEC, just to take over from there. Also, to get in line
Mr.
with that,
Chair, sorry.
I
May I just-
yield to my colleague.
Congressman
Mr.
Pamela
Chair, may I
Zamora.
just clarify kung kailan eksakto yung lunch nangyari? Sir?
Hindi ko na ho maaalala.
Kanino po
kasi-
ninyo ina-address yung tanong nyo?
Ay, kay Attorney Monsayak po,
Attorney
Mr. Chair.
Monsayak, please respond.
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, hindi ko na ho maalala yung actual lunch. Pero ang maganda po kasi dito, na-save ko ho yung mga conversation namin
Alright,
ni
so what
Yusek
month
Lo.
wa-
So,
Sorry, with the indulgence of Congressman Rog, I'll just take like 5 seconds. What month was this, Attorney Monsayak, Mr. Chair?
Please continue, Attorney Monsayak.
Your Honor, I have to check on my records. Pero alam ko ho, bago pa lang ho ako sa DepEd niyan, siguro baka October lang din po yan.
Anong year
Saan
po?
ko
Anong year?
2023 po, Your Honor.
2020, okay.
Kanina si Ma'am Gloria, Ma'am, kailan niyo po sinabi, when did the lunch occur?
Yusek
I
Mercado.
wasn't also very specific because I could not recall the exact date. But it should be October.
All right, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please continue, Congressman Rog.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Gutierrez.
Just in line po with before we go back to the substance of the dinner, the lunch itself, just for the timeline. So prior to the October 1 appointment to ASEC for procurement, ano po yung position po ninyo, USEC, ASEC?
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, I was spokesperson for the Office of the Vice President during that time, before I assumed office at DepEd.
Since when po yung appointment po in the OVP?
Nagsimula po ako sa OVP when the Vice President assumed position.
Given that the OVP was concurrent secretary with the DepEd, would you say you are familiar with the members of the DepEd, even prior to your assumption in October 1?
Ironically, Your Honor, kagaya po ng sinabi ni Yusek Glomer, yung mga tao po sa DepEd, hindi po sila yung mga taong dating nakasama na ni Vice President Sara sa trabaho. Nag-create po talaga ng selection panel, tiningnan yung merits, tiningnan yung credentials. So, hindi ko po sila kilala. Ang ironic po, ang medyo kilala ko po talaga, si Yusek Glomer because she's married to a fraternity brother in UP.
I see. So, Mr. Chair, so your statement earlier is that you are not familiar with the processes of procurement, at least because you just entered as ASEC October 1. But you are familiar with USEC Glo.
Your Honor, I'm a little bit familiar with the procurement process because I used to be head of a government agency, so I oversaw everything the procurement process.
So just not familiar with this particular case?
Yes, Your Honor, because when I joined, the first bid opening was already conducted.
I see. So if that were the case po, no, going back then, thank you for the clarification of the timeline. Going back to the lunch, you do admit to having discussed about procurement issues. It's just you deny that it was an illegal order.
Yes, Your Honor. Bakit ko naman po sasabing pag-usapan na lang natin to sa harap ng maraming tao, sa harap ng DepEd officials. Parang ang sinasabi ko doon, mag-decide na kayo kung ire-rebid nyo yan or itutuloy nyo yung post-qua. Kasi kung ire-rebid nyo yan, aabot pa yan at mayu-utilize yan before the year end. ba't ko naman po mag-uutos ng illegal? And Your Honor, can I elaborate on the timeline just to show that what Yusek Glomer said earlier about the reason for her removal is
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, the SJJ.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think, with all due respect not to the resource person and the
I
witness.
apologize, Your Honor.
Oh, no, nothing to apologize for. I just want to make sure that we're giving proper direction to the questions of Congressman Gutierrez. So if the resource persons would be reminded na let's stick na lang to answering the questions as they were. And then you'll have your chance naman later on to also expound on certain events and certain timelines that you want to explain. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, the SJJ. Kindly continue, Congraj.
Thank you, Chairman Konghun. So yes, I do agree with DS Suarez. As much as we want to hear the timeline, perhaps at a later time, I'll just pursue my line of questioning. I'm sure
Yes, Your Honor.
some of my other colleagues would like to pursue po yung timeline nung resignation.
Yes, Your Honor,
But
Mr.
for
Chair.
the purpose of my interpellation, I'm satisfied with the answer of Yusek Mercado that as to her hunch, as to the reasons which she was asked to resign, and as to the timing of which, given the lunch that happened in the Lint Suites. No? I just have one more question lang po siguro, and then I'm going back now in relation to the envelopes that were labeled Hope. You were being questioned po earlier, Yusek, Mr. Chair, that about your interpretation of what it meant when you were receiving these envelopes. And you mentioned you narrated in your affidavit that the envelopes were handed to me monthly by Assistant Secretary Sunshine Fajarda, which she says came directly from the office of Vice President Sara Duterte. And you mentioned that you quoted, "Galing kay VP," is what she would typically say as she hands the envelopes. What is your appreciation of that statement? Ano po yung ibig sabihin ng galing kay VP?
Mr. Chair, as I mentioned earlier, it's for me it's kasi meron naman siyang ang appreciation ko, the BP naman has other resources to share. So ganun lang kasimplistic yung tingin ko at first. It was only when I move out already that I give it a hard thought.
Of course, I mean, this is just testing to your personal knowledge. We have no idea, we have no clue kung talagang galing kay VP po yun. All that happens is that it is accompanied by that statement by ASEC Sunshine. Correct?
Siguro kaya mo nalilink doon kasi si ASEC Sunshine yung nagbibigay.
Because she was Heya at the time.
Yeah.
So you would assume from the Heya's closeness, proximity of both personal relation and by office, that she would have no reason to lie as to the source of that fund. Galing kay VP. But you're right, it could be a valid source, could be not. But I noticed during the interpellation of Congresswoman Luis Toro, you really had an apprehension. You said that bribery was too harsh a word. Could you expound on that thought?
I think it's just not in my language to say it's bribery because I have not experienced it.
And I would tend to agree, Mr. Chair, because generally when you speak of bribery, it's when you are offered a gift, offered compensation to entice you to do or not to do something that's within your duty. However, that's just the more general term of bribery po, no? But we also have the other. We also have indirect bribery. And that's in the case when a person is offered a gift by not for any act to do or not to do, but by mere virtue of your public office. Would that be closer to what you were feeling at the time? Because there was no conversation. Walang sinabi naman po na itong envelope, gawin mo to, wag mong gawin to.
Wala
But it was
namang-
simply by virtue of your position. The envelope says it all.
Yes,
Hope.
Yes.
And more
yes.
colloquially, kilala ang indirect bribery as payola. Did you have an inclination na ito ay payola?
No.
So you said yes to indirect bribery but no to payola. Would you care to explain?
It's those are words that are not in my vocabulary, so if you excuse me.
Of course. I will not belabor po, no, and I have a respect for whatever semantics you choose to prove. But I'm just giving the basis on the envelope only saying hope, and there was no gift or compensation to ask of what to do and what not to do. But it was merely by virtue of your position, it would appear that you're receiving this. One last question po on that. Would you know if other employees of DepEd received the same envelope? And would you know ano po yung nakasulat sa mga envelope po nila?
No. I would know of one, but the rest I don't know.
You know of one more. Would you be at liberty to divulge?
No.
Not the identifying marks, but at least yung level, yung position po niya. Was it the USEC level, ASEC level?
ASEC level.
ASEC level. So there would be confirmation of more than just the hope. Would you know kung ano po yung nakasulat sa envelope na yun?
No. No, we don't get to see because we're called one by one.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'd like to thank the good USEC for this, for her narration of the affidavit here and being forthright. I'd like to just reiterate our hope that the envelopes will be produced as object evidence for us to discuss, and I'll be yielding to other interpellators who might wish to question. Thank you very much, USEC Mercado, and thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
po.
Chairman.
The Chair would like to recognize the next interpellator, the Honorable Johnny Pimentel, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I would like to discuss the matter regarding the audit observation memorandum issued by COA to DepEd. I have in my possession copies of two AOM, one dated February 1, 2024, another dated August 8, 2024. Now, the OM was sent to a certain Mr. Eduardo Farda, and this was received by Sunshine Farda on August 9, 2024. The other AOM, again, was sent to Edward Farda, and it was received by Lumilin Manalo on February 2, 2024. May I inquire from the COMSEC if this Mr. Edward Fajarda is present?
COMSEC?
Your Honor, Mr. Edward Fajarda was included in the invitees, but he is not present today.
Mr. Chair, it is very important that the presence of Mr. Fajarda, kailangan po natin sa komitiba na ito because Mr. Farda, for the information of everyone, is the special disbursing officer. And this person is the one who made the cash advance of 75 million pesos. And this is also the person that liquidated the said amount. So in order that this matter be given enlightenment, we need to hear the side of Mr. Farda. So in this case, Mr. Chair, in accordance with our rules, due to the non-appearance of Mr. Farda, I move to issue a show cause order to Mr. Farda for him to be compelled to be present during the next hearing.
Is there any...
Second, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr.
Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is carried.
Also, Mr. Chair, they have submitted as part of their liquidation several certifications coming from military authorities. We also need to invite these persons so that they can explain to us or to this committee for these certifications. One is Colonel Manaros Buransing, Philippine Army. The other one is Lieutenant Colonel Magtanggol Panopio of the Philippine Army. The other one is Major General Adonis Bahaw, which I will explain later on why their presence is badly needed or very important in this committee. Since Mr. Farda is not around And I'd like to ask questions regarding this AOM. I'll now direct my questions to the COA, since it was signed by Ms. Nilda Plaras, the Assistant Commissioner Officer in charge. I believe that she's the one in charge in the liquidation of the intelligence funds being disbursed to the different agencies. May tanong po ako sa COA and I'd like to know who could answer. Ito ba ay totoo ba itong AOM na pinadala ninyo? Dalawang AOM to. February 2 at saka August 9 of the same year.
Who will respond? Attorney Gloria, please respond.
Mr. Chair, yung isa po ay February 1, 2024 and yung isa po ay August 8, 2024.
Ang tanong ko po, Attorney,
Received po pala ng August 9.
yes. Ang tanong ko po, Attorney, ito ba ay same subject matter o different AOMs itong pinadala ninyo?
Magkaiba po sila, Mr. Chair. Yung isa po ang covered na period ay July 12 to September 29 of 2023 and yung isa po ay February 22, June 29 of 2023.
But this pertains also to the same cash advance of 35 million pesos. Dalawang cheque po yun. Isang 37.5 million and then isang cheque na naman 37.5 million. Ito yung sa first AOM, hindi ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
Okay, itong sa pangalawang AOM, ano ba ito?
37.5 million din, Mr. Chair. It is for confidential fund po ng July 2,
So magkano
September
ng total
29.
natin lahat? 112 million? Or magkano ang total? So in short,
100,
para lang maliwanagan tayo, no? So yung February 1, dalawang 37.5 million, hindi po ba? Yung August na 9 or August 8, isang 37.5 million. So nagtototal na po siya ng 107.5 million. Ganun po ba?
112.
No. Again, balik tayo sa arithmetic natin. Yung first na AOM nyo, dalawang 37.5. Ang tanong ko, kasi walang nakalagay dito, sa pangalawang AOM, magkano ang kinas advance dito nung August?
Sa pangalawang AM, Mr. Chair, 37.5 million po.
So, 70 million plus 37.5 million, if my computation is right, totals 107.5 million, hindi po ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
Pero sa inyong report, ang total na nakas advance is 112.5 million pesos. So may kulang na 5 million pesos yung... So ibig bang sabihin yung 5 million pesos na balance, walang AOM yun?
Mr. Chair, 112,500 po ang total.
Magkano?
112.5 million.
Kaya nga, pero kinumpute na natin yung dalawang AOM eh. So totals only 107.5 million. Saan yung kulang na 5 million? May AOM din ba yon o wala?
Mr. Chair, ang 37.5 million times 3 po ay 112.5.
Hindi tayo magtutugma. Ulitin ko po. Meron ka ba kayong copy? You know, Attorney, this is a committee hearing. I think next time you should come here prepared. You should do your homework. No offense meant, pero para maliwanagan po tayo. Dalawa ho ang AOM ninyo. Ulitin ko po. Yung isang AOM ninyo is 70 million pesos. Yung pangalawang AOM, sabi nyo 37.5. But the total cash advances as per your report is 112.5 million pesos. May kulang na 5 million pesos. So ano bang ibig sabihin ninyo dun sa report ninyo? Yung 5 million pesos, walang AOM yon. Wala eh.
Mr. Chair, yung AOM po, ang total nung first is 75 million.
Correct. I stand corrected. 75 million pesos pala. Okay, now. Para maintindihan ng mga nanonood, ng mga tao dito na simpleng kababayan lang po natin, ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng Audit Observation Memorandum? Ako na lang muna. Tell me if I'm correct or if I'm wrong. Ang Audit Observation Memorandum, ini-issue po yan ng COA dahil may nakita silang hindi sang-ayon sa INGAS, hindi po ba? May tinatawag tayong INGAS sa COA, yung Government Accounting Procedure or something. In short, it does not conform to the normal transactions. Every agency has a auditor, hindi po ba? Ngayon, ang COA, post-audit po kayo. Wala na po tayong pre-audit. Matagal na ho wala tayong pre-audit. Pagkatapos ng transaction, kompleto po yon, disbursement vouchers, lahat, cheque. Pino-post-audit po yon. If you see something is wrong with the transaction, kung makita ninyong may red flag, hindi po ba nag-i-issue kayo ng AOM?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
Okay. After the issuance of AOM, kaya po natin ini-issue yung AOM so that the agency concerned with regards to the transaction is given the opportunity na sagutin, hindi po ba? Kaya sinasabi nyo, ito yung nakita namin, mga mali po ito, binibigyan ng agency ng panahon para sumagot, hindi po ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
Now, pag sumagot sila, pag nakita ninyong it does not conform to the normal accounting procedures of the government, pag nakuha na ninyo yung sagot, yung justification niya, pero it does not satisfy the COA, nakita pa rin yung may red flag, ano po ang sunod na hakbang?
Mr. Chair, i-issue po kami ng notice of suspension sa ICFAO po.
Okay, nag-issue na tayong notice of suspension. After ng notice of suspension ba, the agency is given another opportunity to reply?
Yes, Mr. Chair, they are given 90 days po.
They are given 90 days after the of the notice of suspension, hindi po ba?
Tama po.
Okay. Now, after 90 days, after they have submitted their justification, again, if you're still not satisfied, if you think the transaction is still illegal, nag-i-issue na po kayo ng notice of disallowance, hindi po ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
Ano ang prescription ng notice of disallowance? Hindi po ba hanggang 6 months lang yon?
6 months po yung time from receipt, yung time nila
for them
to appeal.
to ask for a reconsideration, hindi po ba?
To appeal pa lang
To
po.
appeal, okay. But both the same, to appeal or to reconsider. If their appeal is denied, umaangat na po yun sa ombudsman, hindi ba? For their perusal, hindi pa ba?
Mr. Chair, sa Supreme Court na po.
Anyway, hindi pa man tayo mamabot doon. Dito tayo sa Audit Observation Memorandum. Unahin po natin yung 75 million pesos. This covered the period, yung unang 37.5 million covered the period from February 20 to March 30 and April 30 to June 29. Now, this was addressed to Mr. Fajardo with regards to the liquidations of cash advances of Mr. Fajardo. I want to put it on record that the 2 checks amounting to 75 million pesos were cash advanced or made na advance po ni Mr. Fajardo. Now, sa AOM po, ang nakalagay po dito, we noted the following deficiencies. The propriety and validity of the transaction could not be ascertained as the submitted LRs not fully supported with complete and proper documentation under Joint Circular number 201501. Ang tanong ko po, dito sa unang OAOM, since you have already manifested in your AOM na may nakita na kayong deficiency, one is there is no document supporting the liquidation. Ang tanong ko po, nakasubmit na po ba sila ng supporting documents?
Nakasubmit po sila, Mr. Chair.
Are you satisfied with their, or you're still in the process of auditing the documents, or do you have already findings with regards to the documents that have been submitted? Meron na po ba tayong findings?
Nag-submit na po and na evaluate na po namin yung compliance nila, Mr. Chair.
So sa pagka-ngayon, wala pa po tayong findings. Ine-evaluate pa po, hindi po ba?
Mr. Chair, nakapag-issue na po kami ng credit notice.
Naka-issue na kayo ng credit notice
Yes, Mr. Chair.
with regard to the 75 million pesos.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Na-comply ba nila ito, isa, item 4.12 requires that the disbursements from the confidential fund shall be supported among others in a sealed envelope. Okay na yan. Eh dito tayo sa yung accomplishments. Yung counterinsurgency program, payment of incentives or traveling relative to the confidential operations. Did you also issue credit notice to this?
Mr. Chair, the credit notice is for the entire AOM po.
But why would you issue a credit notice when in fact, in accordance with the joint circular, it is very clear that intelligence and confidential funds, traveling expenses are not allowed?
Part of their compliance is they've explained that it was for actually for transport for operation expenses.
So you issued a
Confidential.
credit notice for the entire 75 million pesos.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, dito tayo sa pangalawa. Yung August 8. Again, the same findings. This is with regards to 37.5 million. May I know the status of this?
Mr. Chair, as to the second, the AOM number 2024-171, we received their compliance on August 27, 2024, and the audit of the evaluation of their compliance is still ongoing, Mr. Chair.
So you're still evaluating it.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Ganun din po ang nakalagay dito. The proprietor sanction could not be ascertained as the submitted LRs were not fully supported with complete and proper documentation. Ito ba ay pinatutunayan mo na may mga dokumento na?
Mr. Chair, may information po ako na nag-submit po na po sila ng compliance. But since ako po ang nagre-review ng audit, hindi pa po na-submit sa akin for review.
Wala ba kayong nakikita dito sa findings ninyo na labag sa batas o labag dun sa joint circular? On paragraph 5, nakalagay po dito, the confidential funds shall be used only for confidential expenses, including purchase of information, blah, 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 blah. Ngayon, ito yung analysis ninyo. Analysis of the submitted accomplishment report revealed that the amount of 2,540,000 pesos was used for the purchase of information relative to car loan scams whose victims are mostly personnel of the Department of Education. Ito ang tanong ko. Sa tingin ba ninyo, sako pa ba ng intelligence fund, confidential funds, ang pag-purchase ng information para sa car loan scams?
Mr. Chair, that is why it is in the audit observation memorandum po kasi wala po siya sa mandate ng DepEd, and so wala din po siya sa allowed na confidential expenses.
Yes. Dito rin sa ano ninyo, ito dapat talagang pagtuunan ninyo ng pansin. Kasi kayo mismo nag-issue ng AOM. Dito sa paragraph 5, based on your AOM, sinabi na ninyo, these expenses do not fall under item 4.81 of the Joint Circular, nor are intended to support the mandate operations of the Department of Education as defined under item 3.9 of the Joint Circular. Thus, Mr. Chair, very clear, the same should not be charged against the confidential fund of the agency. So very clear po, kayo na po nagsabi na hindi pwedeng i-charge itong pag-purchase ng information with regards to the car loan scams. Ano ba ang koneksyon ng purchase information supposedly for intelligence gathering para sinasabi ninyo na para sa hindi madala yung mga bata, mga estudyante, hindi ma-influence ng mga NPA. Eh wala namang NPA dito sa car loan scams So this will be noted and hopefully you will really be diligent in your issuance of, because as for me, I am not an auditor, at trabaho ninyo yan, pero nakikita ko na ito, this should fall under the notice of suspension. Very clear ho yan, attorney. Kailangan ho i-suspend po yan because it does not fall within the mandate of the operations of the Department of Education, and it does not conform to the Joint Circular of the DILG number 201501. Ngayon, Madam Attorney, dito mo naman po tayo. Yung 112.5 million pesos, upon my verification, upon the appreciation of the documents that has been submitted to this committee, I found out most, if not all, of the 112.5 million pesos were used in the Youth Leadership Summit. Doon po ginamit. Ano ba itong Youth Leadership Summit? And that is why we need the presence of Mr. Farda. Kung ito ba ipasok doon sa Joint Circular, tignan ho ninyo, sinabit lang liquidation nila is certification from the different military authorities. Kaya we need to know whether this is documented, kung totoo ba talaga na ito ay nag-conduct sila ng Youth Leadership Summit. Ito, babasahin ko po yung isang certification. This is to certify that the 1st Infantry Tabak Division has conducted 8 activities for the Youth Leadership Summit with 531 participants. Do we have documentation? Do we have evidences that indeed they conducted this Youth Leadership Summit, or sa papel lamang ito? Because we have no way to verify whether ginawa po nila ito. Patapusin lang ho ninyo ako. Meron naman po dito. Doon naman kay Lieutenant Colonel Panopio, this is to certify that 205 youth students from different schools, again, conducted the Youth Leadership Summit. Itong pangatlo po, si Adonis Bahaw, Major General, ang sinasabi po niya, he conducted 9 youth leadership summits which engaged a total of 860. Yun lang ho ang ginawang liquidation. There is no supporting documents. Do I have pictures? Do I have receipts? Siyempre, kung youth leadership summit yan, kailangan may resibo. Lahat sa pagkain or what. In fact, for me, ordinary person ako, this does not fall within the utilization of the joint circular. Very clear po dun sa joint circular. Ano ba itong Youth Leadership Summit?
Mr. Chair, ang confidential funds po kasi is undertaken to help the agencies accomplish their mandates po.
May inquire from Attorney Puwa. Attorney ka ba?
Yes,
Abogado.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Attorney
I think
Puwa, you are
you are
recognized.
with DepEd dun sa pag-conduct nitong Youth Leadership Summit. Pwede mo bang paki-explain dito ano ba itong Youth Leadership Summit? Kasi halos lahat, kung hindi man lahat ng 112 million pesos, doon gigamit sa Youth Leadership Summit.
Opo. Mr. Chair, yung
Yes, Attorney Puwa.
Yung Youth Leadership Summit, sa pagkakaintindi ko po, because even if I'm not the STO, or I have no operational knowledge mismo dun sa detalye ng confidential funds, but I was the one who, as I'm sure you know, I was the one who signed yung response po dun sa AOM. So, yung pagkakaintindi ko po doon sa certification sa ginawa nila, yung Youth Leadership Summit is not something that DepEd conducted, but actually yung mismong nag-certify po from the AFP, they conducted advocacy or awareness programs against insurgency in those certain areas. Yun lang po yung pagkakaintindi ko based on the documents. Kasi po yung response ko po ng DepEd doon sa AOM, we prepared it based on the documents that were available, depending kung ano po yung finding ng AOM.
Mr. Chair, kahit na confidential fund po yan, that is still taxpayers' money. Kasi ginagawa po natin ang budget every year, and then lahat po yan, yung budget po natin, ang nagpopondo po na yan, ay taxpayers' money. Mr. Chair, you can just imagine, Youth Leadership Summit lang ito, and the government spent 112 million pesos. Kahit kayo naman po siguro, mga auditor kayo, kung sino mang mga tao na nandito ngayon, napakalaking halaga naman po ang 112 million pesos para sa Youth Leadership Summit. E pagpalagay mo na lang, ang Youth Leadership Summit, 3 araw, 4 na araw, based dito sa certification, 200 participants. Magkano ba ang pagpapakain ng 200 participants? Yung isa, 800 participants. Abay, kahit na 3 buwan sila mag-hotel, hindi mauubos ang 112 million pesos. Kahit na 1,000 pakainin nila kada araw, hindi mauubos ang 112 million pesos. And that is why this committee would want where the money went, because it is very clear, this is just on paper. Pero ang totoo po niyan, may pinuntahan ho yung 112 million pesos. Alam niyo ho yun. So, Mr. Chair, the key person to answer all those questions is si Mr. Edward Farda. Siya ang nag-cash advance, siya rin ang nag-liquidate. So, let us ask him, paano nangyari yung, to explain to us, 112 million pesos. As far as I'm concerned, there are only 3 certifications here ang nakalagay dito. Isa 863 students, ang isa 200, ang isa 900 students. Pagpapakain lang ng almost 3,000 students, uubusin ba natin ng 112.5 million pesos? So that is why, Mr. Chair, I will reserve my question, but as a layman, as I've said, we are not COA, we are not auditor, but very clear po, malaki ho ang mga katanungan na dapat sagutin ng DepEd party dito sa 112.5 million pesos. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Congressman Johnny Pimentel. Yes, you have a manifestation. Congressman Swansing.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Mr. Chair, my apologies. I would need to move to the plenary for the budget deliberations. But before that, Mr. Chair, I would just like to quickly go back lang po to a query that the committee has with regard to the some data that we need from COA with regard to the Office of the Vice President. Mr. Chair, in September 10, 2024, when we had our second deliberation on the proposed budget of the OVP in the Committee on Appropriations, Mr. Tomawis here and as the team lead of the audit team was there, and we requested for specific data on the details on the rental expenses for the head office, the satellite offices, and the extension offices. As per checking with the committee secretariat, Mr. Chair, COA has yet to furnish this committee with the said information and data. So, Mr. Chair, if we may ask Mr. Tomawis and the team from COA for this information, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Tomawis, would you like to respond?
Mr. Chair, with regards to the question, we can furnish the copy.
When? Do you have it now?
We have the details.
You have it now?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Comsec, could you please get a copy of the documents as requested by Congresswoman Swansing?
Mr. Chair, may I ask Mr. Tomawis if this has also information on the size of each of the different satellite offices in terms of square meters, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, yes, as to the satellite offices, as to the square meters of each rental of office spaces, there are square meters
And
based
finally,
on the contract.
and the third information, Mr. Chair, do we have information as to when the Office of the Vice President started paying the lease for each of these properties?
Mr. Chair, as to the commencement of the lease, there is also the period when the lease commences.
Are you satisfied? Congresswoman?
Finally, Mr. Chair, just to
sige.
clarify, so just to make sure, this includes data on the head office, the 10 satellite offices, and the 2 extension offices, Mr. Chair.
Actually, the data is from the previous admin 2022 and also the central office and the satellite offices.
Mr. Chair, you mentioned 2022, or do you have information on 2023 as well? Year 2023?
Our information, Mr. Chair, is from 2022 up to the 2024.
Which month in 2024, Mr. Chair?
Up to July 2024, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'll request the COMSEC to furnish this representation with those data. Thank you very much,
Please
Mr.
take
Chair.
note of the manifestation of
If I may
Congresswoman Swansing
clarify, this
Comsec.
pertains only to the details on the office spaces. And the other particulars, such as those lease of vehicles, property, plant, but then we can only provide the details on the office spaces.
Yes, Mr. Chair, because from, as you mentioned before, Mr. Chair, Mr. Tomawis mentioned, so in, for example, year 2022, the total rent expense was at 52 million. 2023, it's at 53.5 million, but that includes like different types of rentals, Mr. Chair. So will the data shared with us by COA segment that as to the different types of leases?
As to these documents, we have the amounts pertaining for the lease of different office space, vehicles, and other rentals of the OVP pertaining to the 53 million. And also, we have also the breakdown as to the amounts of the lease of office spaces per satellite office and central office.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I will peruse the documents shared by COA. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity and for making time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
very much.
Congresswoman Swansing. The next interpellator is Congressman Inodi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chair, if I may just quickly go back to Yusek Gloria, since she's here with us this afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, continue with your
Firstly,
interpellation.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to say, ma'am, that based on your affidavit and based on the testimonies that you have given, seems like, based on my judgment po, you're someone that really stands by your principles. Someone that has a strong moral compass, given sa mga pangyayari nga na ito, sa inyong mga binanggit sa inyong affidavit, you mentioned that in paragraph 6 that you were just asserting, you firmly asserted that the procurement must be implemented and conducted in strict adherence with the rules. And with that, Mr. Chair, kasi nakalagay din po dito sa inyong salaysay, sometime in October 2023, the likelihood of a bidding failure for the DepEd computerization program became apparent. What do you mean by that, ma'am? Paano po naging apparent na mag-failure po yung bidding?
Yusek Mercado, you're recognized.
That's kasi a 2022 money. I actually don't get involved in the bidding process because ako yung nagre-review sa taas. But I get feedback from the chair and the other members on what is currently the status of the bidding process, and the report is that it looks like it's going to fail. Only one or two. I don't
Due to
recall
what
anymore.
reasons, ma'am?
Ha?
Sa inyo pong nakuwang impormasyon?
No,
base-
I'm not privy to the reasons because that's a bidding committee function. But it's usually not complying to the standards of the procurement law.
So yung qualifications, etc.,
Yes,
etc.
yes.
So dito rin po kasi sa inyo pong meeting nung lunch po na yon, when you were approached, as you mentioned, by Attorney Munsaya, sabi niyo po kasi dito na mag-uusap-usap na lang para hindi masayang yung 2022 budget. Ano po ba yung interpretation niyo dito?
That's an old money kasi. It's a 2022 money. But it was only bidded in 2023. So, ang very strict yung guidance dyan. It has to be completed yung process and paid by December 2023. So, ako yung context ko doon is it's their way of making sure that we would be able to bid out the computers because it was needed in the field.
But ang sa inyo po, parang ang dating na to be more lenient on their qualifications. Ano po ba ang pagkakaintindi niyo dito pag-usap-usapan?
Siguro it's more of, telling everyone na, you comply with the requirements and make sure that we push through with the bidding process. But that's not how it should be.
So kasi base po sa inyong impormasyon, saka sa inyo po, na talagang hindi naman dapat na matuloy ito dahil nga kailangan natin talagang panindigan na sundin yung mga...
And we have an experience of some of our good friends being thrown into a difficult situation because of previous bidding process of computers. So we wanted to make sure that it's not going to happen in our time.
And if I just may ask, ma'am, you mentioned that a certain director was with you, correct?
Resty Ucias. He's also a member of the BAC.
A member of the BAC. Is she still currently a member of the BAC?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ano po ang
Mr. Chair.
nag-usap pa po kayo pagkatapos nito? Kung ano po ang ibig sabihin? Pag-usapan niyo ba po ito nung director?
Ang reaction niya is, bakit niya sinabi yon? I think that was the reaction of the three others who were there.
So all of you guys agree that the statement made was something out of the ordinary na hindi naman po dapat. Okay po. And gusto ko lang pong tanungin din, Mr. Chairman, sabi niyo rin po kasi dito sa paragraph 9 naman, prior to your meeting with Ms. Lopez, six other undersecretaries and assistant secretaries of DepEd were summoned on different occasions by Ms. Zuleika and Attorney Poa and Attorney Fajarda, all for the same purpose of informing them that they should tender their resignation effective on the same day. Sino-sino po ang mga opisyal na ito? Base po sa inyong recollection. Or can you just provide this committee later on, ma'am, kung maalala niyo po? Or do you have
I
any?
can because I'm the HR.
Okay.
I must admit it's a very difficult thing to hear these things kasi HR ka and you don't know anything about them leaving. But they informed me right after they went through that experience. The first one is a USEC and an ASEC. I think I should not mention their names.
Okay.
And April 30, they were asked to leave on that same day. We actually sought for reconsideration of one of them because he was a CESB awardee and his CESO 1, so parang it will destroy his career. And then we also sought consideration because if they leave on April 30, they will not be entitled to the mid-year bonus. And I asked that not because of the USEC ASEC, but for the staff, because all of them have staff, no? So yun yung consideration. The next two, one was also asked to leave, are USEC for legal, and the other one submitted a resignation, supposedly 30 days to take effect, ASEC, to take effect 30 days after, but she was informed that it's going to be effective that day. And then the other one was removed very early on in 2022. And the last one was asked by, USEC POA just relayed the information that the USEC for curriculum and teaching has lost its confidence on one of the assistant secretary. Therefore, she has to leave. But she wanted to ask for consideration to at least 1 week more, but she was asked to leave on that day.
So all of them, none of their requests for an extension were granted, ma'am.
Except for one who was allowed to be sent to the pool of the Career Executive Service Board.
Were they, as far as you know, were they given enough reasons or justification as to why they were asked to resign?
I think it's more of the leadership is not happy with their performance, something like that.
Okay po, Mr. Chair, maraming salamat po, Madam Gloria. Just wanted to clarify that. Mr. Chair, if you won't mind that I jump into another topic since the Department of Education is here. Because just a few weeks ago, I was reading certain news articles, and to be honest, I was heartbroken and saddened with what I've read. Because according to certain news articles, the COA flagged that the school-based feeding program of the Department of Education had lapses. Can you confirm, any representative from the COA can confirm na meron pong finlag sa Department of Education regarding the implementation of the school-based feeding program?
Ms. Imelda Celso, COA.
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, there are findings on the implementation of the school-based feeding program, which were raised by the regional offices. So one of which is the delayed implementation of regular and milk feeding components in 21 SDOs or school division offices. Number 2, non-compliance with the technical specifications and other deviations from the DepEd guidelines. Number 3, non-reprogramming of unutilized funds. Number 4, payment of nutritional food products prior to the delivery. Number 5, lapses in the inspection and acceptance of deliveries, and deficiencies in the procurement contract and documents. And last, non-compliance with the RA 9184.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The reason I bring this up, because ever since I started in Congress, one of the things I've been advocating for is to actually expand the school-based feeding program. And then now, we hear in the news na hindi pa po na-implement ito na maayos. Talagang nalulungkot po ako sa aking mga nabasa. So, gusto ko lang po i-direct ang questions ko sa DepEd. Ano po ba ang definition po natin ng undernourished students? Any USEC kung sino pong...
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead. You are?
Assistant Secretary Dexter Galvan.
Okay, go ahead.
By definition, Mr. Chair, when we call our learners undernourished, that means they are classified under two components. Either they're severely wasted or wasted, and this is based on the standards provided by the World Health Organization. So mababa po ang timbang ng bata para sa kanyang edad.
So, dun po sa 5.69 billion pesos that's allocated for the school-based feeding program, ilan ang target beneficiaries po nito?
The target beneficiaries for the 5.6 billion was 1.6 million beneficiaries. And they are composed of all kindergarten learners up to grade 6 who are classified as severely wasted and wasted in all schools.
So, yun nga po yung nakakalungkot dito, Mr. Chair, na these formative years are some of the most important years for our learners. And yet, ito pong pagkakataon na makakuha po sila ng sapat na nutrisyon sa eskwela, hindi pa po nila nakukuha because of poor implementation. So out of this 5.69 billion, Ms. Imelda, magkano po dito o anong amount in total ang hindi po na-implement na maayos? Dahil base po sa mga news articles, ito po ang nangyari. Nakalagay po dito, the state auditors have identified that at least 21 school divisions in 10 regions where one or all of the following were found. Merong mga panis na pagkain, merong mga amag na yung mga Nutriban, may mga insekto, unhygienic yung packaging, again, delayed yung delivery, hindi na naibibigay ito sa tamang mga estudyante. So napakaraming lapses no pag-implement nitong programang ito. So out of the 5.69 billion pesos, Ms. Imelda, how much of this was poorly implemented o hindi po na-implement na maayos?
Your Honor, we don't have the data as to how much, but we can give it to you later.
Yes, Ma'am Imelda, can you please provide this committee with that exact data? Gusto ko lang pong tanungin din ng DepEd, ano ba po dapat yung ibinibigay natin? Base po sa ating batas, ano po yung dapat na ibinibigay sa ating mga kabataan, sa ating mga learners?
Mr. Chair, our learners are provided with nutritious food products or hot meals, and this is accompanied by milk. So for our implementation for that particular school year, that would be for 120 days of food and hot meals, and for the milk, it would be for about 43 days.
So do the suppliers go through a certain type of certification, accreditation? Kasi yung mga news article, imagine sa probinsya na Aurora, may mga insekto na, yung mga Nutriban na tatanggap nila, pagkain na natanggap nila. So how does the Department of Education go through the accreditation, inspection? Ano po ba, paano nyo ini-implement itong programa na ito?
At the beginning of the year, Mr. Chair, we conduct a supplier mapping to determine what modality of food delivery will be conducted, whether this would be nutritious food products or hot meals, as well as the milk. The milk component is coordinated with the National Dairy Authority and the Philippine Carabao Center. So we rely on their capability to provide us with their mapping, as DepEd is not an expert when it comes to, for example, milk mapping. And we use the findings to also guide our regional and local focal implementers as to how to proceed with procurement. I'd just like to highlight, Mr. Chair, that the school-based feeding program is decentralized. As such, there is no money that passes through the central office for procurement purposes for the food component directly released to the implementing units at the SDO level. Hence, the data or the COA results and findings are targeted to the SDO level. And we have data to reflect on the percentage of successful implementers and those that had delays or some problems.
No, I understand, Mr. Chair, that this is a decentralized program. But you have to be strictly monitoring the implementation of the regional offices, the certain provincial offices. Because imagine, talaga ito po yung, the reason why these people are wasted, severely wasted, is because wala nga po silang sapat na pagkain na makakain sa kanilang mga tahanan. Yet ito po yung pagkakataon nila na nasa eskwela sila, na makakuha sila ng sapat na nutrition. And we all know there's a correlation between how a student can be successful, how they can learn, kung hindi po sila nakakatanggap ng sapat na pagkain o nutrition. Yet we've failed all those students. Kaya naman po, Mr. Chairman, talagang this is really unacceptable. So we want to know, ano ba po yung mga hakbang na ginawa ninyo to address these implementation issues?
Mr. Chair, on the part of the Department of Education, we are proceeding with early procurement activities to ensure that there are minimal, if absolutely no delays. And at the same time, we have begun pushing for stricter penalties for those that are able to deliver faulty food, because these are primarily based on the suppliers. So if they're deemed to have been consistently providing poor products, then they should be blacklisted. And at the same time, we are setting up a public grievance platform so that it'd be easier for us to identify kung meron na pong problema kaagad sa school level, so that we may follow up and intervene before it becomes a big issue at the implementing level.
So with these suppliers that have failed to implement this correctly, ano ba po ito? May refund ba ang gobyerno dito? Paano ang nagiging hakbang nyo dito? Kasi imagine kung ito po nga sa Bulacan, sa itong iba't ibang probinsya na hindi na-implement na maayos, in the amounts of 20 million, 30 million, sa Camarines Sur, 98 million worth of milk products were not even delivered. So ano po, what happened to these funds? Are they still intact? Nabayaran na ba yung mga supplier nito? Ano po?
Mr. Chair, if I may provide a summary of the current status of these COA findings. So of the 217 divisions that we have in the Department of Education, 192 were able to implement the program with no delays or issues. That's about 88%. Of the 26, I believe, that have findings, 20 are based on the delay of the implementation. The remaining have issues with technical specifications and or some spoiled products. As of the moment, and based on our data, all of these implementing units have already successfully completed the program rollout. Those that were noted to have problems in terms of spoilages or moldy bread or with pests, based on our standard contract, the supplier will bear the burden of replacing these at no cost to DepEd. So there was no loss to government. And as coordinated with the local COAs, all of the responses of the local SDOs have been accepted, and there was no disallowance forwarded because they were still able to complete the implementation within the acceptable timeline.
So, ASIC Dex, do you have the number of schools and number of students that were affected by these lapses in implementation? Can you provide this committee?
We may provide the specifics at a later time, but we do have that data set. However, I may provide actually, Mr. Chair, the amount based on the data that we currently have of the food products that were affected, particularly the spoiled and the ones with moldy bread and pests. Based on our current data set, the amount of food products that were affected totals to about 32 to 35,000 pesos. But it's the milk component that really is quite concerning at about 960,000 pesos. All of these, as mentioned earlier, have been replaced at no cost to DepEd. And we're trying to work well with PCC and NDA to eliminate these delays and concerns.
Mr. Chair, if I may just request a full report of the actions taken by the department. Also, the suppliers involved with the implementation of these programs which were flagged by COA. And also, can we get a report from the previous years? Kung ano ba yung mga naging problema sa implementasyon? Ano, so, have we been improving? Have we been parang poor, have we been losing, alam niyo po yun, losing momentum how to better implement this program? Ano ba po yung nangyayari talaga dito sa programang ito? So gusto po natin malaman lahat ng ito, Mr. Chairman. So can you please provide us with all this data? And I really want to know kung ilang estudyante yung naapekto nito. Kasi kawawa po talaga itong mga batang ito na hindi man lang, ito na nga po yung pagkakataon nila na makakuha ng sapat na pagkain ng nutrisyon sa schools, yet we really failed them. So this is unacceptable, Mr. Chairman. So please provide this committee a full report on these incidents, Mr. Chairman.
DepEd, please wait to be recognized by the chair. Yes, you are recognized now. Dexter Galpan.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the Department of Education will provide the full report. But to provide a bit of context, Mr. Chair, for the school year 2023 to 2024, the Department of Education was able to provide about 252 million meals to our kids nationwide. And based on our current records, the ones that were affected in terms of pests, spoilages, include about 55,000 or so meals, all of which again were replaced. This represents about 0.02%. But our goal is that there would be no spoilages or delays in the future.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's
Mr.
it.
Chair, just a rejoinder to Congressman Ino.
Yes, Deputy Speaker Jay, please continue.
Advocacy ko kasi itong nutrition. In fact, when I was governor, I was one of the, if not the first governor to implement the first 1,000 days. So nutrition is indeed a very close issue to my heart and of course to Congresswoman Anna's heart. Matanong ko lang, kayo po yung head nung nutrition program na pinatutupad ng DepEd?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So, ilang beses nyo pinakakain yung bata sa loob ng isang linggo?
For every day, sir, for the rest of the week. 5 days a week for a time frame of 120 days for school year 2023 to 2024.
120 days, for 120 days, so that's around 4 months? Tama ba yun?
4 to 5 months, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
4 to 5 months. Tapos, paano nyo na-determine kung ano ang ipapakain sa kanila?
So each SDO is given guidance as to anong modality po yung gagamitin. Would we be going with nutritious food products that are based on the standards of DOST, FNRI, or hot meals, yung mismong kanin at ulam po?
So wala kayong ginawang assessment bago nyo dinetermine kung ano yung nutritional lacking ng mga bata bago ipatupad yung programa?
Prior to the implementation, the learners that will be included in the program are weighed. So that would be our inclusion approach, Mr. Chair.
So tinimbang nyo lang?
Yes, sir. And we plotted them based on the WHO standards.
But you know that weight is not the determinant of undernutrition, malnutrition, or overnutrition, correct?
It's not the sole factor, Mr. Chair.
But that is what you use.
That is in accordance to the existing laws, sir.
That is what you use.
Yes, sir.
So therefore, yung palang, I just want to ask, I think we should really look into this program, you and I, as both advocates of nutrition, proper nutrition for children, because I think not only was there a wastage in the fund utilization as seen by COA, but I think down to the implementation, down to what is being given to the children, mukhang hindi rin yata sapat at nararapat yung naibibigay sa kanila. So maganda matingnan din po natin ito. I just want to thank Congressman Ino for that excellent topic. Maybe we can look into this further. Salamat.
Thank you. Yes, the next interpellator is Congressman Asidre.
Magandang hapon po sa lahat, Mr. Chair. Magandang hapon po. Kanina po nasa opisina ko po ako nung naririnig ko po yung testimonya, nakikinig po ako sa testimony ni Yusek Gloria Mercado. Narinig ko po na sinabi niya na nakatanggap siya ng sobrang mailaman na pera regularly. At I'm actually disturbed kasi kung sinabi Yusek Mercado na meron pang isa na nakatanggap at malamang meron pang ibang nakatanggap, I can just imagine if this was done on regular intervals, say monthly, I can just imagine the total amount needed to sustain it over a year. And you know, at 50,000 each, sabihin na lang natin may 20, may 50, tapos merong 12 months, may Christmas pa daw, di ba? Mr. Chair, I can just imagine, and it's quite disturbing, no? For this particular practice, even to use a language that even a small whim of this happening in one of the departments that we hold in high regard, the Department of Education, it's really quite disturbing. But just to give a better picture of how things are at the DepEd, Yusek Lo, you were Yusek for HR, right? Mr. Chair.
Yusek Mercado.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yusek, can you walk us through the process that DepEd followed in the selection of USECs and ASECs? Kasi I remember at that time there was a heightened attention at hiring at the best and the brightest for DepEd. Would you share with us if there was an emphasis on appointing the most qualified and capable individuals? Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, that's why we all started out inspired, and for once we said that meritocracy is alive in the bureaucracy, because we went through a process of applications, being vetted, being in fact background check, and then the final search was a committee that asks specific questions. So if you're applying for a certain position, they will ask you questions around that. So it was, I think there were almost 1,000 or hundreds, I'm not sure, but we were informed that there were so many applicants. It was CES board that made the application, the search, the announcement, and it says if your career and you're smartest and the brightest, you can apply. So we did apply online, and then we received notice for interview, and then after a while we got a notice that you are hired as Undersecretary for Bureau of Human Resource and Organizational Development. So that's how the process went.
Mr. Chair, is this same process for the other portfolios?
Yes, yes.
Given your experience in government, Mr. Chair, would you say this was something unusual for a government agency to go through this process compared to the other agencies that you worked before?
Yes, that's why I said we were inspired when we started out. In fact, I recall I even posted in my day saying that meritocracy is alive when we were chosen.
So when this string of resignations happened, Mr. Chair, as HR, have you ever, tried to understand why these resignations were happening? Were these resignations ever addressed or seen as a cause for concern within the department?
It was beyond us, I have to admit, as the HROD and the parang nananayan of the Execom, every time someone is sent out, part of me dies off kasi they're also very close to me and they're young. These people are young. I know it will affect their careers. So even if this group tried to band together, they've been inviting me to join them. I could not because I wasn't able to do anything for them as the HROD.
Mr. Chair, would it be fair to say that even if you're using the word resignations, these resignations were in fact de facto dismissals?
Yeah. Because they didn't want to, but they have to because pride na rin siguro that they...
And Mr. Chair, the decision to dismiss them was entirely the Vice President's decision as Secretary of Education.
It was well, the three, it was Yusek Sulaika of OVP, Then one was si Yusek Powa, yung inutusan, and then yung isa si Asek Shine.
So you mentioned Yusek Sulaika Lopez, the Chief of Staff of the Vice President. And at the time when she talked to this outgoing, dismissed undersecretaries and assistant secretaries, she was not part of the Department of Education, correct?
No.
So her role was really as Chief of Staff to the Vice President.
Yes.
Was this something usual for officials of the Office of the Vice President to intervene or to meddle in affairs of the Department of Education? When she was Secretary of Education, Mr. Chair?
I guess that's that's the difficult part of the situation kasi you're OVP and at the same time you're Secretary of Education. But it was unusual on my part to hear after they came back from the OVP that they were asked to resign. In fact, the first one, yung sila Yusek Chris, we were doing a national screening committee.
Ma'am, Yusek, pakilakas po. Medyo hindi
We
ko
were in
narinig.
the screening committee and we had to stop because it's like all of us cried, and fortunately there was one of the members of the screening committee was from CES board, and she advised us that Chris should not be resigned because she's CESO 1. So kung pwede siyang pumunta na lang sa pool. So that's why we advise Chris to get the resignation and instead request for the pool.
Mr. Chair, Yusek, kanina you mentioned a narrative na some officials were being called at a certain hour and were told that they were being asked to resign or dismissed with the same day, I
Yes.
believe. So, paano yun? May dala na silang resignation nung pinatawag sila? Or how was the process done?
I guess they were asked to submit right there and then.
Right there in front of Yusek Sulaika?
I'm not sure if kay Sulaika or sa amin sa DepEd.
But definitely wala silang dalang resignation letter when they were
Wala,
called.
because they didn't know that they will have to go.
That they will have to be resigned. So wala ding opportunity, Mr. Chair, Yusek, that exit calls were done for transparency and accountability? Was there even a chance that the former DepEd Secretary, the Vice President, would meet with these officials para pa-thank you lang naman for the services rendered?
No exit calls.
No explanation on the part of the Vice President?
Well, it was not explained to the Execom. So that was a very unhealthy precedence kasi parang after that we all ran scared that we might be the next one.
Paano kung CESO, Yusek, Mr. Chair? Kasi siyempre, we have certain rules to follow when it comes to career executive service officers. Was there another process? Was there a due
That's
process?
why they have to resign because their career.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. Kasi ako, right there and then, they will lose their income, their staff will lose all their benefits and salaries, and they were all left in the cold, left in the dark about the circumstances of their termination. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Would you agree, Mr. Chair, Yusek, that these decisions appear to be arbitrary or whimsical or even capricious to say?
I'll choose arbitrary.
Would you I believe you've been a human resource practitioner for the longest time. Would you believe that this somehow measures up to an abuse of authority or a lack of respect for government officials, especially those in the career service and for established processes in government service?
Maybe it's probably for her it's a decision she has to make And as to what are the reasons, it's hard to speculate. But it's very inhuman for
I will
the...
supply the word, Mr. Chair. It's quite unprofessional. You agree?
Yes. Or
Now,
I'd rather use the word
Unprofessional.
inhuman.
Inhuman.
Because you lost your income, di ba? Yung may pamilya ka
Hindi lang
eh.
naman inisip ko may sasaing
Oo.
mamayang gabi, no? Pagka-uwi. Mr. Chair, would you know, Yusek Mercado, who replaced the outgoing officials?
For the two in administrative services, it was General Menpin and General Baluyan.
So that confirms the two generals on the invitation list serving as Yusek and ASEC, correct? What specific designations they had again?
They
Madam
were
Chair,
USEC
Mr.
for
Chair?
administrative services and ASEC for administrative services.
You know, we have so much respect for our men in uniform, Mr. Chair, Yusek Mercado, but you think having a general in the Department of Education would be something congruent with the mandate of the agency?
Well, it's a decision that the leadership has opted to take, so we cannot question it.
Now, considering this resignations, replacement of officials, and this, as we say, arbitrary style of dealing with human resource at the Department of Education, how would you characterize the management style of the Vice President when she served as head of your agency?
She has her targets, and I think that's where the disconnect is, because my sense, no, she has her targets, but she's in a different platform because ang orientation niya is local government. Well, as like policy process takes a longer one, no? Siya has to do it fast. I think she's been going down in the field, so mas nakikita niya yung problema. So she wanted it really, things to go very fast. But the policy process can take a little while. And since these are also human that you have to consider, so you have to explain to her that that's how things work in the policy loop.
Would it be fair to say that she could have been more humane in her dealings with the officials and employees of DepEd?
I think humane is, yeah, but probably it's a context of she thinks that since we're the executive committee, we should, level up to what she expected everyone to do.
The executive committee, Mr. Chair, is composed of the USECs and ASECs.
Undersecretaries and the assistant secretaries.
How often did the executive committee meet with the Secretary of Education in person?
I think we had a face-to-face mga few times, but most of our executive committee meetings are online, and usually she joins, but most of the time it's USEC POA who...
It's USEC POA who will
Yes.
preside.
Mhm.
So next level of the USEC ASEC would be the regional directors. How often did the DepEd Secretary then had meetings with regional directors?
I'm not... It's a... Because there's an execom and there's a mancom. I'm not very sure. Maybe maybe Yusek Rebsi would know because he is the secretariat of the management committee. Yusek Rebsi Escobedo is also here.
So, Mr. Chair, Yusek Law should be once or twice, or how many? Just estimation.
Maybe quarterly.
Quarterly. So she was DepEd
Quarterly
Secretary
with
for...
Yusek POA.
with USEC FOA, but with the Secretary of Education herself.
I'm not very sure with the... But when we were there, she was attending Mancom naman, which was monthly when I was there. But I'm not sure after I left.
So when you were serving at DepEd, she was attending or presiding over meetings with the regional director monthly, every month,
For a certain time.
for a certain time. So, do you believe that that kind of leadership that you had in the Department of Education affected the overall stability and the quality of leadership down the line?
Yes.
Do you think that the particular, you mentioned kanina, parang LGU yung perspective, no? That leadership style would be focused more on, I don't want to use the word, but that's the only way to describe it, partisan political interest rather than the welfare of the institution, the personnel, and ultimately the student that DepEd ought to serve. Do you think that's a safe, fair assumption, Mr. Chair?
When I say LGU, I think it's more of a fast result than because she really goes down to the ground, to the school level.
But
so,
that fast result appears to be would require or sometimes result in a disregard for the career professionals in the department. Don't you think, Mr. Chair?
yeah, sometimes.
Last question, ma'am. At least, Mr. Chair, I would know the Vice President is watching us because she just had a press conference and she said that she's denying giving former DepEd Undersecretary Gloria Mercado 50,000 for 9 months. And the Vice President saying that Mercado was let go because she used DepEd to solicit donations from the private sector amounting to 16 million without her knowledge. And she adds that she will provide the media with paper trail to back up her claim, describing Mercado as a disgruntled former DepEd official. I think, ma'am, given your long history and long service to the Republic, 40 long years, I think it's fair for you to be given the opportunity to reply to the Vice President.
I think, I don't want to do this, but since siya na yung nagsabi, i-turn over ko na yung envelope. The envelopes where the money was.
Comsec,
So it's 9 envelopes.
kuha po yung envelope.
So it says hope and the amount is there. Kasi ang sakit naman nun, ordinaryo lang akong trabahante tapos inano ka ng Vice President, di ba? It's very painful.
Ma'am, ilang taon na po kayo? I hope you don't mind. Gusto ko lang pong malaman kasi sabi po ninyo 40 years na po kayo in government.
I'm 65, sir, but
So when you were appointed as USEC noong 2022 ba? 2022? How old were you at that time?
I was 64.
64.
Yeah.
I'm sure sa edad ninyong yan, after pagkatapos nyo pong pag-ingatan yung iyong pangalan for the past 40 years?
Sabutin ko yun. Yes, sir.
So, okay, anyway,
Sir,
Mr. Chairman,
I'd like to...
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, dito po ako.
Ay,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, can I continue first?
Congressman, wait, before I recognize Congressman Paduano, ma'am. Yes.
I believe...
With the indulgence of Congressman Asidre, please continue, Congressman.
Mr. Chair, can we allow Yusek Mercado to continue with the response? Because I was trying to ask her about the 16 million that the Vice President mentioned.
Please respond with respect to the 16 million. 1660. 16 million.
I would like to respond to that because it's a press con. When I was called for by Yusek Sulaika. He said, Yusek Mercado, you have to go because one, you have a teacher in your staff. But I explained to them that the teacher was a contract of services when I joined DepEd. And the teacher has a pending application in Cebu because he's from the Visayas. And while he was working with us, he qualified for the RQA. But then when he received his appointment as a teacher, it was already past the opening of the class. It was almost opening, and the teaching load was already apportioned. So I called the RD. I said, can I still keep him? Because he was working on the special hardship allowance, which was a program that BP Sara also wanted to improve because there's a new hardship allowance, and we were just able to reduce the hardship threshold from 0.37 to 0.33. And she wanted the basis for the giving of the hardship allowance, special hardship allowance, revisited. So that's why that guy was the one working on it. So I explained, and I don't feel at all na guilty ako dun sa sinabi niya. The second one is, Sulaika mentioned that I solicited from 2 agencies. So I explained to her that it was a program which our strand developed. There were 2 consultants from UNICEF who developed the app, and then we asked our external partnership office to look for external partners who will be presenting the program, because we developed the concept. It was DepEd Guru. It's her being able to contact the 980,000 teachers. Parang kahit nasan siya, pwede niyang makausap yung mga teachers. The second one was for us to do an electronic mode of the RQA. Parang there's no human intervention anymore. Everyone uploads the credential. Even the computation of the teacher qualification is already on an what do you call this? Wala na siyang human intervention. So that was the program. It wasn't us who choose who would be the partners who will be invited. It was the external partnership. So we made a presentation to almost all the corporations. And then some of the corporations appreciated that it's a very important program. So some of them committed to buy, kasi what we did is we divided the total fund of 16 million into chewable chunks. So if you're interested with this package, ito lang. If you're interested with it, because not everyone naman wanted to pay the 16 million. But there were 2 corporations who were willing to fund, because we wanted to put one in Mindanao, one in Visayas, and one in Luzon. So there were 2 who committed to fund the full package, and those were the 2 corporations that Yusek Sulaika said I solicited. So I explained properly. I did not solicit. There's no money involved there. These are equipments. Walang cash po doon. Equipment siya na ito-turn over sa DepEd. So I feel very sad that up until now, the BP has not been appraised, as I explained it to her people, that we did not solicit. In fact, the two corporations are willing to give an affidavit that I have no solicitation from them of 16 million.
So to reiterate, Mr. Chair, Yusek, first, this was a sanctioned DepEd project.
It's a DepEd project.
Second,
yes.
you did not do the solicitation yourself.
This was managed by the External
Partnerships Office. Third, no cash donation was ever made.
So
Equipments was given to the department. So none of this, of what allegations that the Vice President's making against you is true.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Chair. And
Thank-
that
thank-
makes it very sad because she's saying it now. Ibig sabihin, her people did not explain to her.
At least I know she's watching, then she probably be able to get the information from you now. Thank you, Yusek Glo. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Congressman Paduano.
Ano na po, short interjection with regards to the envelopes that was submitted to this committee. And I just want to put in record that voluntarily, former Yusek Mercado submitted the 9 envelopes, sealed, to support his claim, her claim in her affidavit, paragraph 4. Tama po, Yusek? Ito yung sa affidavit mo, paragraph 4, no? So, Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
again,
Chair.
just for the record, the 9 envelopes is being submitted voluntarily by Yusek Mercado and for this committee to keep it as part of the supporting evidence that was claimed through her affidavit, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you po. The chair would like to recognize the next interpellator, Congressman Suwan.
Mr. Chair.
With the indulgence of Congressman Suwan, please,
Mr. Chair, first,
Kong J. Konghun.
Yusek Mercado, pwede po ba kaming makakuha nung copy din ng resibo nung pinagdonatan po natin ng pera?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Second, Mr. Chair, I'd like to request, Mr. Chair, the COA for the copy of the rental or lease agreement of the 10 satellite offices and 2 extension offices of the OVP. I so move, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion by the second, duly seconded. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, the chair would like to recognize Congressman Rodante Marcoleta. With the indulgence, of course, of Congressman Suwan. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I be allowed to raise some procedural issues?
Congressman Marcoleta, you are not a member of this committee, so therefore you are not allowed.
I think, Mr. Chair, we have yet to resolve that because, as you said in the last hearing, my removal as a vice chair of this committee was a plenary action. And therefore, there should be a plenary action to remove me as a member of this committee. I would like to believe, Mr. Chair, that when I was installed as a vice chair of this committee, it presupposes membership. I am supposed to be deemed a member because if I were not a member, I cannot be appointed as a vice chair. The officiality of that is, the position is only a privilege, but membership is organic. So until and unless that was to be resolved, Mr. Chair, I think you have to recognize me as a member of this committee because even if I admit or I will probably accede to you that I am not a member, kahit hindi po ako member sa committee ito, being a member of the House of Representatives, I have the right to make issues and to raise issues. That's why I'm asking your permission to do so, Mr. Chair.
You can at any time make a manifestation. In fact, I've been recognizing you po. But with respect to the issue of your removal, the committee is not in the position to answer that. Maybe you can question the Committee on Rules. Sila po ang proper committee na po pwede pong sumagot sa
Yes,
inyo pong
Mr. Chair, that is
katanungan.
correct. The only reason why I answered you back because you said that I am not a member of this committee. I should not have raised that at all had you not said it. But may I continue, Mr. Chair, in raising some procedural issue, because during the first hearing, I know that the very basis of this inquiry in aid of legislation was the privileged speech delivered by Honorable Valeriano. And I would like to make of record, Mr. Chair, although I was unable to do that during the first hearing, the privileged speech shouldn't have been allowed at all based on our rules. Our rules specifically states that no one can be allowed or avail the privilege hour if the concerns he is to raise in his privileged speech principally and directly relates to a bill under consideration. At the time Honorable Valeriano, Mr. Chair, delivered his privileged speech, the General Appropriations Bill was already filed on August 27, 2024. He took the floor on September 3, and therefore, any concern relating to the subject matter in the budget or in the bill should not have been allowed at all. And then, this morning, I saw the agenda, Mr. Chair. There was an additional agenda added in this committee, and this is supposed to be the manifestation raised by Congresswoman Louis Stroh. And I saw in the notes that it was taken up as motu proprio matter, Mr. Chair. On procedural matters, I don't know how it should be done, because motu proprio, to my mind, is something that would indicate an official action taken without formal request from another party. And so my question, Mr. Chair, is how did the committee took it on a motu proprio basis when it was a manifestation taken by another party? I see it a very unusual procedure, Mr. Chair, because this representation, I would like to recall that sometime in March 2024, delivered a privileged speech dealing on the same subject matter, and I think even more, I questioned the several irregularities pointed out by the Commission on Audit, specifically in 2017, 2018, and 2019, covering the audit report of COA in the Department of Education. In that privileged speech, Mr. Chair, I took note of the sum of something like 3.25 billion pesos of information communication technology packages. As noted by the Commission on Audit at the time, Mr. Chair, there were no adequate supporting documents. Unfortunately, that privileged speech was not even referred to the department or to the committee, to any committee, either the Committee on Education or the Committee on Good Government. And so my question, Mr. Chair, is how is it special, or how special can a manifestation issued during the budget committee hearing that this committee, this good committee, already took it as a motu proprio action, subject matter to be covered by this hearing? So parang there is no consistency, Mr. Chair. Parang I would like to volunteer, Mr. Chair, that a copy of my privileged speech delivered on March 15, 2021, entitled Co-Bodies DepEd. It was not even referred to any committee, Mr. Chair. when I exposed several irregularities in the Department of Education as audited by the Commission on Audit. I would like to volunteer that this be made part of the documents that might be taken up by the committee in regard to any investigation with regard to DepEd. In this particular privilege speech, Mr. Chair, I even question a particular law. It's Republic Act 8047. This is a law enacted in 1995. And in that particular law, it prohibited DepEd, then called DEX, that time, Mr. Chair. DEX at that time was already prohibited from procuring and publishing the books. And it should be relegated, or it should be transferred to the private sector publishers. For more than 25 years, Mr. Chair, the DepEd did not follow the law. It's Republic Act 8047. I've been pointing out to them several times already. But there was no investigation done on that matter. How is it that a manifestation issued during a budget hearing be taken up as motu proprio when a full privilege speech dealing on the same subject matter, and even, I think, more appropriately described as more complete, but it wasn't taken up, Mr. Chair. This is all, and I thank you very much for allowing me. Thank you.
Thank you. Duly noted. Congressman Lord and Suwan. Please proceed to your interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to address my questions to the Department of Education. Is it true that the Department of Budget and Management Government Manpower Information System stated that the DepEd has 46,703 vacant positions out of 1,030,897 authorized positions as of May 2024? Is there such a report from the DBM?
Sino po, kanino po ninyo ina-address yung tanong po ninyo?
Well, I guess we could have the DBM answer it. The Department of Budget and Management Government Manpower Information System stated that DepEd has 46,703 vacant positions. Is this correct?
Sino pong sasagot?
Mr. Chair, from the Yusek Toledo from DBM. So we're just pulling the record, Mr. Chair, so that we can answer exactly as far as the question is concerned, Mr. Chair.
Okay. But before you answer, please identify yourself para po malaman, for the record.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yusek.
I'm Undersecretary Rolando Toledo.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yusek Toledo, you are now recognized by the chair.
Okay. Mr. Chair, as of April 24, the total authorized position of DepEd is 1,030,897, of which 95% or 983,351 positions are filled. So, Mr. Chair, so yun po yung the latest as of April 2024. That's what we have, Mr. Chair.
So it's not true that 46,706 vacant positions. Oh, it's true. You have how many positions were already taken?
983,351 positions, Mr. Chair.
So would that mean that there are still 46,703 vacant positions?
Yusek, Yusek Toledo.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Before I recognize you,
Yeah.
I understand, ma'am, that you're not feeling well. Yusek Mercado, you are now excused. Pwede po kayong, sige po, para makapagpahinga rin po kayo. Thank you po. Thank you for your time, ma'am. Thank you po. Ma'am, Sir Yusek Toledo, please continue.
Okay. Mr. Chair, based on record, given that we have already the authorized position of 1,030,897, which is a filled-up position of 983,351, we have an unfilled position of 47,546, Mr. Chair.
So I guess it's true. May I ask this for the Department of Education? In DepEd Memorandum Number 42 Series of 2024, the Department of Education Secretary Sani Angara ordered the department's offices to fill all vacant positions to ensure effective and efficient delivery of basic education services. And even the Education Undersecretary for Human Resource and Organizational Development, Wilfredo Cabral, noted that posts should be filled to ensure that the budget allocated for these items should be utilized within the end of the fiscal year. Now, my question is, how long have these positions remained vacant?
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Yes, Yusek. Sino pong Abral?
Yes po, I am.
Okay, you are recognized. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Your Honors. These vacancies have been existent for quite a while, but I would like to clarify that out of the 47,000 mentioned, this includes all CTI items, hard-to-fill items, and that includes all other positions, both teaching and non-teaching. As to how long, this is a series of natural vacancies, as there are promotions, and some of which are newly created for a particular fiscal year.
So, how many of these vacant positions were there as of December of 2023? Were there around 40,000 vacant positions as of December 2023?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. We noted that as of December of 2023, there were already vacancies that we noted close to about the number as mentioned, Mr. Chair.
How about as of December of 2022? Was there the same number of vacant positions?
Mr. Chair, I beg your indulgence because I was not the HR at that time of the fiscal year mentioned.
So in all of those years where there were tens of thousands of vacancies, was there a budget to fill those vacancies?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, all of those positions identified in the DBM GMIS are actually funded when considered regular items.
So they were funded by the DBM and yet we were not able to fill them.
Mr. Chair, they are funded but not yet released because we have the process that once unfilled positions are filled up due to hiring, that's the time that concerned implementing units, either region or through the division, submits that copy of appointment and budget are requested for that purpose.
So what happens to the budget allocated for those positions when they are not used by the end of the year?
That goes to the PS savings, as we call it, Mr. Chair.
So apparently there is a budget to fill these positions, but through the years they remain unfilled. And I am concerned, USEC, because we are supposed to promote employment for Filipinos and lots of teachers need work. So I guess in my eyes, this is an inefficiency that we must address. Can you imagine 40,000 people could have worked? And this has remained a problem for many, many years. Anyway, let me move on to another topic. So we have under the Basic Education Facilities Fund of the Department of Education for 2023, the department had a total target to build 6,379 classrooms with a total budget of 23.41 billion. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, if I may. Mr. Chair, if I may respond.
Mr. Chair?
If I may respond.
Yusek Densing, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. For 2023, that original target with DBM is 6,379 classroom. But after the DPWH, which is the implementer of the program, made additional factors which include howling costs, site-specific adjustments, and foundation design, the new target is 5,133, Your Honor.
But USEC, only 192 classrooms were actually successfully built. Is that not right?
Mr. Chair, if I may. For 2023, Mr. Chair, the new policy was really to do multi-story, primarily because of the absence of buildable space. So for 2023, 39% of the classrooms are one-story, 61% is multi-story. Then after the SARO was released directly to DPWH in April 15 of 2023, they had 30 days, because we were monitoring the documents with DPWH, they had 30 days to be able to release the sub-ARO to the district engineering office. Therefore, around May, dumating po sa district engineering office bandang June. Pagdating ng June, dun pala nag-start mag-procure ang mga district engineering office. And in our monitor, they were able to finish the whole procurement process between July to August and some in September. Therefore, itong 192 are all one-story buildings which can be built between 115 to 145 days, two-story, 180 to 240 days, three-story, 240 to 270 days, and four-story, 265 to 360 days. So therefore, meron talagang spillover, Your Honor. In fact, as of June 2024, ang na-build na po na classroom is 998 classroom as of June 2024. That's 19%. 90 to 99%, 1,337 patapos na. 2,000 for 50% to 89%, 2,087. Then 711 classrooms na lang po ang below 50% and nasa procurement.
So that was as of June of 2024?
Tama po, Your Honor.
But for the budget of 2023, only an actual number of 192 was built.
133 na po yung bagong
5,000.
133.
133.
And again, it's really the process of procurement on the part of the Department of Public Works. Sila po kasi implementer ng program. Our role is to monitor the way they're building the buildings. And again, 192 for one story po yun kasi yun ang pinakamabilis na magawa.
So 192 out of 5,100 is still a very small percentage. Now, on 2023, meron po tayong Basic Education Facilities Fund ang DepEd, tama?
Tama po. Tama.
Diba? So, what is the purpose of this fund, Yusek?
Ang purpose po ng pondo ay para gumawa ng mga bagong classroom, repairs, electrification, gabaldon, and health facilities. Kasama na po ang last mile school.
Okay. So, is it true that the fund for this program is 33.85 billion?
Tama po, lahat na po yan.
So that's a huge amount of money,
Tama po.
and rightly so, because I think that classrooms are the home of learning, and it's very important infrastructure for our country. However, the percentage of really 192 classrooms out of 5,000 is still very, very low. Now, is it true that the DepEd made a target to repair 7,550 classrooms in 2023?
$7,558 po ang classroom na dapat i-repair. Pero base po sa special provision ng 2023 GAA, lahat ng 1 million pataas, DPWH ho mag-i-implement. Sila ho mag-aayos. Lahat ng 1 million pababa, DepEd po. Therefore, sa 7,558 na targeted classrooms for repair, 208 lamang po ang i-repair ng DepEd kasi yun lang po ang 1 million pababa. Ang balanse po na 7,508 ang magre-repair po niyan DPWH po.
So you were able to repair the 208 classrooms?
Yung 208, tapos na po yung 208 kasi yun lang pong nabigay sa amin, less than 1 million.
And the rest are supposed to be repaired by the DPWH?
Tama po yun.
Were they able to repair these classrooms?
Po,
Were they able to repair these classrooms, the DPWH?
Opo, as of July 2024, per DPWH report, 3,067 classrooms have been completed. 3,708 classrooms are still under repair, ongoing. Tapos meron pang around 900 na pinoprocure pa nilang DPWH.
As of
July 2024.
2024. So in 2023, you had your Last Mile Schools program, correct?
Ang Last Mile School programs po nagsimula ng 2020.
You still continued this through the year 2023.
Tama po. Sinimulan po ng 2020.
How much was the budget for the Last Mile Schools program?
1.5 billion po starting 2021 until 2023. 1.5 billion.
It's not 3 billion
3 billion po for 2024.
for 2024.
Tama po.
So in other words, the goal of the Last Mile Schools program is to make education more accessible, right?
Ito po yung mga na-identify nating mahigit na 9,000 mga classroom na nasa malalayong lugar, at least 1 hour away from the center, nasa mga bulubundukin. At saka yung mga classroom ay isa lang po ang teacher at nagmo-multigrade. Yung po ang mga description ng ating mga last mile schools. 9,045 po sila in total originally. Ngayon po nasa 8,400 na lamang.
Ang classrooms, ang target.
Opo, ang target na sites.
Is it true that the Last Mile Schools program had a target of 88 schools?
Sa 2021, 98. Sa 2022,
98 schools?
Opo, sites. Sa 2022, 82. Sa 2023, 93. Then sa 2024, 166.
So out of the 93 in 2023, how many were completed?
61 na po ang tapos, 30 ongoing, tapos 2 under procurement as of July 30, 2024.
So it wasn't all finished in 2023? Only
Hindi
61 were finished out of the 90?
Tama po yun, hindi po natapos. Ang base sa aming pagtatanong sa baba kung bakit hindi nila natatapos, nahihirapan sila sa procurement at sa bidding, marami daw failed biddings dahil maraming mga contractor na umaatras dahil nga daw po sa layo. Not to mention na mayroong mga peace and order problems at saka yung lugar mismo, mahirap tayuan po ng mga eskwelahan.
So would you say that the Last Mile Schools program is still a success?
Para sa akin po, medyo successful po siya. Kailangan lang talaga natin bigyan ng pagkakataon na magtayo doon. Kasi pinuntahan po namin yung mga natatapos, nag-ground break po kami at natutuwa po yung mga tao kasi bumabiyahe po kami, naglalakad kami ng 30 minutes pabukid para makita talaga namin personal.
Okay. I'm done, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, itatapusin na po muna natin ang ating committee hearing ngayon dahil meron po kaming i-address po ni Speaker yung House sa plenary. So we will have to wrap up and
Mr. Chairman, before we
yes,
move
Congressman
to suspend.
Paduano.
Ano na po, just admin matters na po. Did COA submitted the documents being required to them with regards to fraud audit manual or guidelines? Nasubmit na pa ba? Yung guidelines doon sa fraud audit. Fraud audit, special audit, saka regular audit. Yun yung hiningi natin noong nakaraan. Nasubmit nyo ba?
COA, please. Sa COA po ba? COA? Please answer po.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
Yes po, we submitted po through electronic mail sa COMSEC po.
COMSEC, nasabit daw nila yung guidelines with regards to fraud audit, regular audit, saka special audit.
Yes, sir. COA has submitted electronic
Yung,
copies.
yung Bureau of Treasury, did they submitted the, yung question of fidelity bonds of all those mentioned name? Kasama na po dapat yung, yung sa DepEd.
Yes, sir. BTR also complied. They submitted an electronic copy of the fidelity bond of the officers from DepEd and BTR for 2022 to 2024, Your Honor.
Okay. Last na lang po. Ito, kasi next hearing, magdidetalya po ako doon sa mga tanong sa COA at sa BTR. BTR, kasi, are you familiar with MC 97-002? Bureau of Treasury?
Bureau of Treasury?
Attorney.
Sino pang representative?
Afternoon po, Your Honor.
Paki-identify po ninyo pangalan nyo.
Your Honor, my name is Jericho Cadorna from the Legal Service of the Bureau of the Treasury.
Okay. Nag-oath na po ba kayo?
Yes, Your Honor, earlier.
Okay.
Bureau of Treasury, yan po. Kasi next hearing, itatanong ko po ito in relation to all those special disbursing officer, no? Doon sa OVP, tsaka sa DepEd. Now, kasi under Memorandum Circular 97-002, COA to we're talking about the COA, MC 97-002. Now, in the previous hearing, during the last year, yung mga initial investigation with regards to LGUs in my committee, question of requirements for the special cash advances. Diba yung MC 97-002. Now, SDO. Kasi isang requirement doon, for the SDO to be qualified is to submit all their SALN. Tama. Kaya lang, on the later period of last year, sabi naman ng COA, but not these people now representing COA, those COA representatives that attended my hearing during the time, yung question of SALN daw, tinanggal nyo. Why?
Your Honor, on the matter of the SALN requirement, the Bureau of the Treasury submitted its position paper before your committee, Your Honor, dated 14 March 2024 as to the reasons for removing the SALN requirement in its latest circular, which is...
March.
Yes, Your Honor, before the...
Now, na-discuss natin yan. Now, are you still in your position to remove SALN as one of the requirements for SDOs?
Actually, Your Honor, we may resubmit this position paper, but just to give an update regarding the initiatives of the Bureau of the Treasury to come up with a revised omnibus circular to consolidate all of its past Treasury circulars. we humbly update the Honorable Committee and Your Honor that the SALN requirement, rather the bonding officials is in the latest draft of the Treasury Circular would again be empowered to require the SALN as one of the supporting documents. But just to clarify, Your Honor, this is still a draft and it would still be up to the management of the Bureau of the Treasury to decide. But to give an update, in the finalized draft from the technical working group, the bonding officials of the Bureau of the Treasury, particularly the provincial and regional offices, is recommended to once again be empowered to require the SALN.
Hindi, kasi ganito. Kayo, Bureau of Treasury, kayong tumanggal noon, di ba? But that is still existing with regards to MC 97-002 sa COA Memorandum Circular. Sa inyo, tinanggal nyo. But doon sa requirements ng MC 97-002 is still existing. It was never amended by the COA as part of the Memorandum Circular. Kaya ako, though it is a draft, kasi dito, itong investigation na to with regards to the confidential fund, in which though my joint memorandum circular 2015-001, but still the mother memorandum circular to be used for banded officers are still MC 97-002. Tama po, di ba, Kowa? May joint memorandum circular kayo, pero you still using MC 97-002, di ba?
Yes.
Correct, di ba?
For regular
No.
audit.
Ito na naman kasi yung pinag-usapan natin dito is yung special disbursement officers. Di ba yung requirements? We are still using. Di ba? Tama? Kowa.
Attorney Gloria.
Pag confidential funds po, yung joint circular po ang basis namin.
Hindi, yung Joint Memorandum Circular 2015-001 should conform with MC 97-002. Ang pagkakaiba na doon, ito confidential fund, ito regular na fund, or ito it's either special audit or fraud audit. We're still using MC 97-002. Well, in fact, COA, dapat nga mas stricto tayo dun eh. Kasi confidential fund yun. Di ba? If you are not using MC 97-002, dahil dun sa ito ay confidential fund, but MC 97-002 is just talking about special disbursement officers. Ang isang provision doon. Di ba? So dapat yung appointment and recommendation of the head of office, ang yung mga requirements doon sa disbursement officers are still the same. Unless you amend also MC 97-002. Kasi we're talking here of the same SDOs eh. Di ba? We're not talking about it's either confidential fund, it's either regular fund. We're not talking about fraud audit, regular audit, or special audit. We are talking here about, my issue is all about yung authorized accountable officers or special disbursement officers. Di ba? Anyway, Kuha, you check na lang po kay Chairman. Pag-usapan nyo para sa next hearing. Kasi nung nakaraan, tinanong na kita, Attorney Gloria, sinabi mo, it is still the mother MC being followed by COA. Tama? Tapos yung sinabi mo, with regards to disbursement officers, eto, yung Joint Memorandum Circular, dapat nagkatugma doon sa MC 97-002 with regards to requirements of SDOs.
We will take it up po.
Okay po, kasi next hearing, pag-usapan natin yon. Yung sa OVP na SDO at saka sa DepEd na SDO. Tapos, BTR, yung question of accountability, fidelity bond, kasi binigay kanina sa akin, so official yon, sabi ni Comsec daw, from your office. Kasi marami akong tanong doon, no? Particularly the OVP SDO at saka yung DepEd SDO. Kasi yung isa 41,000 lang yung salary grade, yung salary niya. Pero we're talking about 112 million. Unless multimillionaire siya. O di dapat mag-reflect sa LN niya. Di ba?
Attorney Cardona.
Your Honor, on that matter...
I'm sorry, Attorney Cadorna.
Yes po.
Okay, sorry.
On that matter po, Your Honor, the Bureau of the Treasury actually submitted a position paper on a similar inquiry but pertaining to another matter. But before, also the Honorable Committee of Good Governance and Public Accountability as to the matter of the salary grade vis-a-vis the fidelity bonding and as to the rates of maximum accountability vis-a-vis the bond coverage. If with the indulgence of the Honorable Committee, we will submit this position paper once more on that matter.
Okay po, kasi next hearing, pag-usapan natin yan. Pag-usapan natin, kasi nakita ko kanina, in a glance, yung Fahada ba yan? Basta yung SDO, is only earning 41,000 a month. Pero we're talking about 112 million. Di ba? Binigyan siya ng authority as SDO, 412 million. But 41 million lang. Just in case pag may nangyari, ayun. So anyway, pag-usapan natin next hearing. Prepare na po pati yung position paper nyo. Pero ano na ba yan? Final na ba yung position paper nyo?
It is final in the sense, Your Honor, that this was submitted by the Bureau of the Treasury on a before this Honorable Committee, but on a different matter, but pertaining to similar inquiries, Your Honor, the salary grade requirement.
So can you submit now? Are you in liberty to submit it now in the committee?
Well, Your Honor, what I have right now is just a scanned copy. Just for the sake of professionality, Your Honor, I would have to transmit an original copy.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move to direct the Bureau of Treasury to submit the documents with regard to their position paper as to the special disbursement officers. SDO ba yun?
With regards, Your
With
Honor,
regards to
the salary grades.
salary grades, accountability,
Accountability vis-a-vis
and the maximum amount,
yes, and
fidelity
vis-a-vis
bond.
bond coverage, yes,
Okay.
Your Honor.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Is there any second to the motion? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is carried. The chair would like to recognize the Vice Chairperson, Honorable Crispin Diego Remulla, from the 7th District of Cavite. Do I hear a motion to suspend the hearing from
Mr.
the
Chair.
Honorable Vice Chairperson?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, before I recognize the Honorable Vice Chairperson, the Chair would like to recognize Honorable Congressman Acop.
May I respectfully move that since the former USEC Mercado provided us pieces of evidence that this evidence be marked. So move, Mr. Chair.
Is there any second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Do I hear a motion to... Ano, meron pa ba?
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair,
Yes, Honorable Acop.
since we are supposed to be at the plenary at 1700 hours or 5 o'clock, may I move that we suspend the hearing of this committee? So move, Mr. Chair.
Before I rule on the motion, the COMSEC is directed to mark the evidence. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is carried. The committee hearing of the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability is now suspended until the next scheduled hearing.